do it right now. Hi, guys. This is live. It's going to be 3 hours, massive live broadcast. But if you don't want to stay for the 3 hours, it will be broken up in 3 different segments on Voice America. And I'll also put it on my YouTube channel in 3 different segments.
All right, 15 seconds. Have a great show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show with Elizabeth Monroy. Over the next hour, you'll learn how you can become part of the new consciousness renaissance by evolving yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, and socially to embrace your true divine infinite nature and become an infinite human and co-creator of the new infinite earth. Now, here is your host, Elizabeth Monroy.
Hello, my divine infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever, ever, ever shall be. And welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so delighted to have you here with me. I feel your loving energy. And I just want to thank you for joining me. I have I have some wonderful guests this whole month, because this month we're going to be addressing, I think, a very key, crucial point in ascension, in awakening, in co-creating a new earth. It's something that we really need to shift, and it's the paradigm of looking externally for our answers, specifically looking to spiritual teachers, which we have definitely needed. And I want to pay respects to all the spiritual teachers I have had, and I think we should all join in paying respects to all those, because that's the first thing you need to do when you move beyond someone, is you need to pay respects. So I want to take a moment, and if you want to, in your own heart of hearts, to just give thanks to all the speakers and all the teachers and all the healers and all the helpers and all the physicians that have helped you along the way. And I'm just going to read something while you're doing that may help you with that and set the tone for this 3-part series. Okay. So when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear. Lao Tzu. Since the fall of humanity, when the divine holographic architecture of our earth was severed from infinite God source and all truth was carefully hidden, we have had to look outside of ourselves for answers. We have looked to spiritual teachers, priests, priestesses, shamans, witch doctors, sorcerers, magicians, witches, warlocks, ministers, preachers, pastors, rabbis, gurus, mystics, swamis, psychics, therapists, fortune tellers, seers, healers, life coaches, TV evangelists, celebrities, newscasters, icons, presidents, speakers, experts, and the list goes on and on and on, as you probably know. Like cell phones without a SIM card, we have been rendered non-functional, unable to go to infinite God source for our information. Thus, we have become dependent on external sources of information that may or may not have been reliable. Since birth, we have been conditioned to believe we are nothing and must be taught everything. In fact, it goes deeper. We are taught that we are inherently evil, and our innate instincts, intuition, creativity, and sexuality must be suppressed, and we must be molded and shaped by those around us to fit into a broken world. So with that kind of foundation, that has been our history. That has been our past. And we have needed others, especially spiritual speakers or teachers, because they perhaps have had more genetic accretions and have been able to pierce the veil and move into the higher dimensions and retrieve information, download information, channel information. But unfortunately, a lot of this has been co-opted and polluted and hijacked. So not always has our information been clear. So it's a mixed bag. But now, joyous, oh happy day, joy of joys, the architecture is being cleared. We are able ourselves once again to come online and to reconnect our organic SIM cards, in terms of our inner vision, our third eye, our 12 strands of Crystalla DNA, and reach into these God source worlds to the higher aspects of ourselves, our higher selves. There are many, our God source selves, our infinite selves, and get our answers there. So this creates a very exciting new paradigm that we are now shifting into. And part of it is like children. We have to start letting go of being children of God and become, now we're moving into our adolescence. And of course, the first stage of adolescence is renouncing everything, rebelling against everything. It's all bad. It's all bad, and you kind of get, and in my book, The Infinite Human, I go through that stage, and we're going to bring Amasol on in a minute, and we're both going to talk about our own personal experiences. But I know I kind of rebelled against the teachers, that I had. And then the next phase is adulthood, where you kind of enter your own spiritual maturity and you begin to trust yourself, and you begin to know that you can discern. You might not have all the answers at once, but you can get the answers. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Amasol on. And Ama, would you please tell us about yourself? Because I don't have it information in front of me. Would you mind? Welcome. This is Ama's returning. So
thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here and to collaborate with you again today. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder of a nonprofit animal sanctuary called Blue Heart Sanctuary. I'm in Western North Carolina on 40 acres of sacred Cherokee land. And I always thought that was my life's mission. And in 2017, my life took a whole new trajectory when I fell and broke my wrist, and I healed it in a week. And that was just by imagining source, guide, creator, love coming in and visualizing my wrist coming back into alignment. About a week later, I took a crystals class at a community college. And when the woman put the stones on me, it was like someone flipped a light switch. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And I was hooked, and about a week later, I did a session with her. And I'm really grateful because she was not one of those ones like, continue to pay me for these activations. It was just like holding that space to empower me and seeing that in myself. So I'm really grateful for Kathy and doing that. But one of the first sessions that I had with her, a guardian came to me, and I was told that I was a facilitator and to trust God and allow it to be. Now, I didn't really resonate with that at the time, but I was then told that this was more than a place of healing for animals. It was a place of healing for people as well, but I would not be able to hold that space for others until I did my own healing. And I think it was maybe about a week or so later, my husband of 19 years walked. And, at the time I used to say I went through the dark night of my soul, but now I reflect more that it was like the death of my ego. And I was really just came to this place of surrender and trust. And what I just came to understand was that we have no control over things that have happened to us in the past. And when we can shift out of victimizer consciousness, we are liberated, we're freed. And so unconditional love and forgiveness has been like my MO. And also, sitting through these uncomfortable parts of ourselves, doing this shadow work, allowing ourselves to move through these feelings and emotions and clear these densities and distortions and miasms that we hold within our template. So over the last several years now, I've been really dedicated to transforming this place from an animal sanctuary into a wellness and a retreat center. So what I really ultimately love to do is to invite people to come to connect with nature, connect with themselves, to hold that space for others to see that within themselves. So I have a lot of different offerings here. I've got several accommodations, and this is truly special land. I call it a Q site here. We've had contact with interdimensional, I'd say, plasma beings from inner Earth. And so there's a lot of really special things that are happening here. But ultimately, everyone that comes is, the overwhelming or the feeling of peace and love, that people have, and just being able to disconnect from all the chaos of the world and come back into that place of center is what my mission is what I'm here to do. So I'm really grateful. And, this is like the first step. And my ultimate vision is to co-create a Christic community here. And so I'm really excited for, just seeing things, kind of coming into greater clarity and focus, and, all the fruits of my labor, so to speak, kind of, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to witness. So I'm so grateful.
Okay, thank you, Amma, and that's why I invited you here, especially for this one, because I feel like you're really doing it. And I think all of us, it's almost like I sometimes I think of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, whatever, when everyone was seeing like that image of the Devil's Tower, in their minds. I think so many people are having the image of communities, of creating communities in their own way, and I know we're all coming together in this new paradigm of co-creation. And so I wanted, because I really believe that it's all developmental, and we're all kind of as a clump, as a group, as perhaps one great monadic being, we're all kind of going through this developmental step. So I felt like this broadcast in this month of June, kind of looking at the alchemizing this paradigm away from looking externally and then looking internally, is really key. And as I gaze out into the Christic communities with my inner vision, I have seen that there's a lot of duality. There's a lot of distortions. There's a lot of conflict between them. And I really want to just put this out. I feel like part of my job is just to kind of drop a pebble of healing to bring it all into this beautiful unity consciousness. Not saying we can't see the dark and the light and the differences and opinions, but at the core, we're all one. We're all infinite source, and we're all unique. So as we really come together in this trusting our own inner self and our ability to discern, we don't have to worry about trusting someone else, because we trust ourselves. So we can listen to all the different opinions, because we know we are our own best expert, and we will come up with a solution. So that's what this talk show right now, this moment, is all about: shifting away from what we have been conditioned to do. Look outside of ourselves. Since we came out of the chute, unable to heal. Unable to even feed ourselves. We've been dependent on others, and then in school we're taught not to think, not to express our uniqueness, not to be creative, and so this is the words I'm saying, and Amma will be sharing, and we'll have Dave Emery on next week too. He's coming in, are to empower you to feed the wolf, the two wolves, to feed the independent wolf, the interdependent wolf, the power inside of you wolf, not the dependency, the codependency, the victimizer wolf that's looking outside himself. So I don't think you can hear enough inspiring words in that direction, since we've been so conditioned in the other. So I'm just going to start with my journey with spiritual teachers. And like I said, I always pay respects to all those that came before me. And then Amma, if you have something you want to share, jump in, because I got a lot to tell. But when I met my twin soul Peter, that's a whole nother story there. But we became actually, it was Out on the Limb. He saw the movie Out on the Limb by Shirley MacLaine, and it switched him around, because he was Mr. Doctor, Mr. Mindset. If you can't see it, it doesn't exist. But he had had all these experiences he could not explain, out-of-body experiences, the interdimensional noises and sounds and beings talking to him, but he just didn't have a frame reference for that. And he loved movies. So I showed him Shirley MacLaine's movie Out on a Limb. And when he saw her having that out-of-body experience in the silver cord, he said, "Oh my God, I'm not going crazy. That's something." And then he started reading every book possible. And this was, guys, in the days when there was only books, all right? 1990s or something. Only books, no internet. And we were like, there was like I don't know if you've heard of the Bodhi Tree, but the Bodhi Tree was a big metaphysical bookstore in LA, and we had one in Coconut Grove because we were in Miami at the time. And every weekend we would just go there, load up on books, and then head to the beach, across. We go to Captiva Island and read and read and read, and we just studied everything. He was studying, of course, at that time we just studied whatever was available, and it was the Kabbalah and all that. And I was studying Pada Yogananda in the Eastern. He was studying Western mysticism. We were just hungry. And we read in one of the books, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And we went, oh. And we just said, let's ask for our teachers. We want our teachers. And we just we're doing a lot of praying and manifesting and visualizing. We said, "Oh, please give us our teachers." And I'd been looking for a teacher for a long time. I'd been going to the Option Institution up in Massachusetts, and Peter had come and I'd been to this place and that place, but he'd always kind of like, nah. Well, finally we took a writing course, and I was writing the book, The Infinite Human, and he was working on The Pathway Home. And at the end of the course, our teacher said, "My guides are just, driving me crazy. You have to meet my teachers." And I was surprised because Peter was like, "Yeah, let's go," which he never was that way. And we ended up going to Richmond, Virginia, and we met them, and they were interesting couple. Patrick was like a retired military sergeant, like almost 7 feet tall, and he was a Vulcan. He was the character that that Mr. Spock was modeled after. So very, very intelligent, very dry, very, you can imagine what he said about the human race,
Sure.
And then Sharon was black, and she looked like the woman in Aquarius minus the afro. She's beautiful and very, very intuitive. And they were amazing teachers. They could do things. I mean, they could do things like teleport. They would work with us in our dreams. We would go on retreats, and very interesting things would happen. And I remember when I first met Patrick, I told him about my experience when I was just like in nursery school, like I was 4 years old, and we used to go into the bathroom in the dark. I don't know why. We used to do it, and it was pitch dark, no windows. And one of the girls was coming out of the bathroom, and I saw her walking toward me. It was her skeleton, and I just screamed, and then she grabbed me, and I grabbed her, and I told him about that, and he said, "Well, what happened then?" I said, "Well, I got scared." He goes, "Well, now you're going to have to pay us a lot of money to get it back." So he was one of the best spiritual teachers because he didn't want to be one. I mean, we would fly across the country to Montana from Florida and show up to a weekend workshop. And he's like, "Don't you have anything better to do?" And he was just so, And then Sharon was much more mystical, And we learned a lot from her. And then Patrick, left. His job was done. They were twin souls. His job was done. And he left the minute the Twin Towers fell. And I believe he, helped to, because there was a dark agenda of pulling those souls into Phantom Earth. But he served as a catalyst to poke a hole in the net and take the souls that chose the direction to be freed out of the Matrix. So it was like he was there, and he's like, "I got to go. Sorry." And so he was gone, and that was really, really hard. And then Sharon continued, but Peter kind of distanced himself from Sharon at that time, and then Peter had to go too. He left in 2005. And I've talked about twin souls and how they're very attacked, and we're not allowed to stay together for very long in the physical because we hold so much frequency, kind of like the movie The Adjustment Bureau, and Dave Emerson talked about that. But after that, I just kind of was sharing, I wasn't feeling that the disclosure was at the level I wanted, you know. And and looking back, and I just think I was growing out of her. And I had someone come to me who was in her group, and he uh, came to me when I was in my darkest hour, because of course I'm not going to blame anyone outside of myself, but I think sometimes with spiritual teachers, we have a tendency to think that we're doing our inner work when we're really not. You know, we go to a workshop or a retreat, we feel great, and everything's wonderful, and it's really high energy. And then we come home, and after a while, it kind of runs out because we really haven't taken care of our own inner business. And I don't think I was. Amma, do you want to make any comments on that?
No, I'm really enjoying listening to your
Okay.
story.
I just want to say, because you mentioned how you did your own inner work, and it is tough, and no matter if you could have the most amazing spiritual teacher in the world, but unless you're doing your own inner work, you know, you're not gonna, you know. And I really believe that you can do the most incredible activations too, but you have to integrate it physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, all through yourself. So I was at the point where I was like, oh, it was terrible. I had just well, okay. The truth is, um, I was up in the Cherokee area,
Oh,
and I had
wow.
driven up there on my own, and I was going to this retreat center, and I don't know why I was just driven, and I got there, and you know how it is at night, those windy roads and everything. I
Mhm.
finally found it. It was like really late at night, and I was like, "Oh my God, these roads," you know. And I knocked on the door. I said, "Hi, I read about your retreat center. I'm here." And the guy answered. He said, "It's closed." I said, "What?" I said, "Well, can I just stay here? Because I don't want to, there's no place to stay. You know, you can be out in the middle of nowhere." And that was in the 90s. He said,
Mhm.
"Okay, yes, here's a bed. You can stay here. There's no one to help you, but here's some cards. They're past life cards. Why don't you just play with them?" And so I started like shuffling them. And all of a sudden I had this amazing recall of my last lifetime. It was during Nazi Germany. And I saw myself in a bathtub. I had drowned myself. I had fallen asleep. I had taken sleeping pills and slipped down and drowned. And then it was terrifying because it was so real. And and the guy said, "Imagine something to heal it." So I saw my higher self coming and taking me out of my body, you know, and healing that. But that was a huge thing. And when I met my spiritual teacher the night before I met Sharon, this was not Patrick, this was the female. I was terrified. I couldn't sleep all night. My stomach, I never felt that kind of pain. And when I met her the next day, I said, "I think I killed myself in my last lifetime." And she said, "Okay." I said, "Well, don't I have some karma from that?" And she
Mhm.
said, "Well, yes." I said, "Well, what do I have to do to get rid of this karma?" And she looked at me and she said, "Live." And I
Mhm.
was like, "Live? That's easy. What live?" That was the hardest thing, because when Peter died, all I wanted to do was commit suicide, because that's why I had done it before. We had been on the wrong side. He'd been a Nazi doctor and he had been killed by the Americans, and I just, you know, checked out. So I had to keep living, and it was huge, and I didn't want to. So I was taking sleeping pills again. Thank God I was in Italy, and they don't have bathtubs there. They have showers. And I wouldn't rent an apartment with a shower. With a bathtub. I was terrified of bathtubs all my life. And so anyway, but at that point, I had been on, I had gotten off the sleeping pills, but I was on all these Depakote and all this stuff for bipolar. I've been declared bipolar. I was really heavy. I was broke. I was in Pawleys Island. You know, I was losing this condo I'd bought. I mean, I was at the lowest of lows. And this dark mentor came, and he turned me on to Ashiana Dean's work, and it just resonated for me a lot. And he started talking to Peter, because I was so far gone I couldn't communicate with him. And I did the Mark Shield. I started building up my body and everything. And he taught me every day, like for 4 hours for a year, told me really, what he was telling me was the freedom teachings, but I didn't know there were freedom teachings. So I
Mhm.
signed up for the second part, and now they're calling it KDL3, and it's Ishiana, not Ashiana, and all that. But I didn't understand that. And I knew there had to be more. And I kept calling the center saying, "Isn't there more?" And it wasn't until just a few months ago when I got back on Facebook with my name that I decided to friend only people that had symbols of the, the true, Cathara grid and any Christic symbols. But I had also gone to Lisa Renee's group for a while just to learn the history of the planet because I knew nothing about it. But, I started to grow beyond that too. And I realized, whether I know everyone is saying, oh, they're fallen and no, they're fallen. No, she's fallen. I was like, what's going on in this community? I couldn't believe it. Everyone was pointing fingers at everyone else. And if anyone's hearing me that's involved in those Christian communities, they know what I'm talking about. And I just realized, wow, this is all happening for a reason. It's a reason. And there's a reason why also with Ashiana, and I don't know if you're familiar with those teachings. They're the second part of her before the freedom teachings. Her transmissions would come on. And then she'd say, I'll talk to you. I'll give you the next one next week. And it'd be a year before the next one would come. And I'd be like, what in the fuck is going on here? I mean, this is crazy. I said, I want to learn this stuff. I want to learn it because it resonated. It caused memories. I could understand why I went to Egypt and I had I cried for hours because I remembered Thoth. I remembered what happened to me. I remembered it. I understood where Peter was because he kept saying, I'm here. I'm in Andromeda, up here. It would put all the pieces together for me. And I wanted to know more. I was so hungry. And then I didn't even know there was freedom teaching. So you sent me some info. People have been giving it because it's bootleg. And I thought, well, this is so strange. Why is it bootleg? This is information that should have been in the Bible. This is information that's our birthright. This is information that indigenous tribes held sacred when the Catholic Church came and murdered them, or when they killed the Knights Templar, murdered the Cathars for. So I'm a big person on getting this information out. I think it really should be out. And that's just my struggle. I think, but you know what? I'll just say, I think it's all part of the plan, even though I was very frustrated, like, I want to know this. Why can't I know this? But I found that every time I wanted to know something, it would come to me. Whether a video just would pop out of nowhere that was supposed to be taken down, or someone would send me something, or it would just fill in the blanks as I needed to know, or an activation would come along as I needed it. And I think we have to trust the process. And I'm going to say something really, I could be killed for heresy, which I was so many times. I'm sure we all were. But, Speaker One, I'll just say Speaker One, she's a speaker for the Guardians. Okay. And now just recently she's going to make a transition. Oh, it'll be next week. Oh, no, next week. No, next year. Okay. It's not coming through, guys. Everyone knows this. Everyone's waiting for her next live stream. But I will say something, and I think there's a lot of people that agree with it. She was a speaker for the Guardians. She'll say that I'm a speaker for the Guardians. Well, guys, we're the Guardians. Mm-hmm. And she was speaking to us because we did not know who we were. We needed a speaker. We needed someone to make videos, to tell us our story, Just like, for example, with twin souls, I don't know if you know this, but when they're fallen, it's the male who has the codes. He gives them to the female, and through making love, the female gives them back the codes back to the male so he can reconstitute and ascend. So the same thing, she was giving us our codes. If she's not speaking, it means we're able to start reassimilating our codes. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. You have comments on this, Amma, because I know you do a lot of your own work with this.
I do. I see that it's popping up that we have 30 seconds. Would you like to come back to this after this short break?
Thank you so much.
I don't want to get into it and then. Yeah.
See, that's where we're all working together. Okay, so we'll come back in just a minute.
For more empowering words from Elizabeth Monroy and Dr. Peter Monroy, check out their latest book, The Infinite Human. An ascension guide for starseeds, twin souls, and awakening infinite humans. The co-creators of the new infinite 5D Earth. You'll also find many spiritual books to help both children and adults in their ascension back to home, to infinite God source. Isn't it time to be part of the new consciousness renaissance? If this resonates with you, please subscribe to our website at infinitehuman.com and become part of our growing Infinite Human family.
Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. Do you have a question or comment for Elizabeth or her guests? Please call us at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. You can also text or email your questions and comments to infinitehumanproductions@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. I'm Elizabeth Monroy, your host. I'm talking to I'm a Soul. And just if you're getting lost, because we're talking about some really high-minded concepts here, and I like to try to raise the bar, so I don't speak down to people, I speak up to them, but that's why I'm always promoting the book The Infinite Human, not just to sell it, but because the talk show is based on it. So it connects all the dots. So if you're wondering about, these people that I mentioned, Ashiana Dean's teaching, Speaker One, Lisa Renee's, and on, the Christic Sciences, they're all kind of connected into what has been happening during this whole pandemic and the new earth where we're going in the future. So Amma has some wonderful comments. Please, Amma.
I do. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. It's I think along our journey, it's just so easy to want the answers, to pay for this activation. I'm going to pay $333 to get this DNA activation, and I mean, ultimately, it comes back, like, for me, as embodying and living the attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. If you haven't gotten that part down, then any of the activations or techniques or anything you're going to do, that's it's not going to really stick with you if you haven't embodied the true consciousness of being Christic. So, I don't really like to talk about people, as far as teachers or anything like that. I've definitely looked to one or the other, or but I'm at the point now where I trust my discernment. And so I feel into people's voice prints. How do I feel when I'm watching whatever they're transmitting or channeling or bringing through? And now it's just like, so much of it just doesn't resonate with me any longer. And
yeah, can I just stop you there?
Absolutely.
How are you feeling? Because this is key. It's very simple, but as children, we all felt, but we were taught not to feel. So
Right.
children only feel. That's how they navigate this
Right.
crazy planet. So I want to give people permission again to start feeling. So can you just expand on how you feel? You don't have to say names, but when you're listening to something and what that feels like in you, or positive or negative or whatever, like.
Yeah, if I may. So I think, like, especially for those of us who are really sensitive, if we're empathic and we don't have the tools and techniques and, have an understanding of what it is to be so open, we shut down, we close off, we close down to listening to that still small voice, because, it's like, it wasn't comfortable back then. So now it's just like, I listen to my body. I feel the sensations in my body. I listen to that, like, yeah, or I'm not feeling that. And sometimes I'll get a ripple of energy through my body. I'm like, ooh, I'm not feeling that. And it's like, so much for me anyway, is like, does it leave me feeling open and loved and loving, or does it bring about these feelings of fear? So for me, that's where I kind of like, that's how I'm discerning. That's what
recently I had a remote viewer, so great. She was on the show. She was so talented. And, she was there helping me because, Peter helps me a lot, but sometimes I just can't hear him, or I'm not sure, I'm not listening, because we've been conditioned to not trust these voices, if it's not in the physical, it's not real, right? I mean, that's a strong one, and my whole book, The Magical Missiles, about a little rag doll that went to took her owner to the world of imagination, and then the ragdoll was thrown out because, and she got the key to the world of imagination, but it was all thrown out because it interfered with her schoolwork. It wasn't, it was disruptive, so we have to really reclaim our creativity, our imagination, and our ability to feel. And so I was terrified because I just got, Peter was like, you need to let go of Susan, because I'd be like, Susan, what should I do? And, because it's so comforting to ask someone like a mother or a figure, what should I do? Should I buy this? Should I go there? Should I take this? Should I do this? And I'm like on my own, I'm a widow. I'm making a lot of decisions, business decisions, that just are not, part of, blonde, right? Blonde's we're not supposed to be, the dumb blonde, like, I can't, balance a checkbook. So I've had to do that, even from doing the muscle testing or pendulum swinging sometimes, just to, and then I'll ask it like 500 times. Are you sure? Are you sure? And then, I'll get all excited about something, but then I'll get afraid, like, oh, wait, is that just a child in me that's going to just, how you're a kid and you go out and you want to eat a lot of chocolate and you eat so much you get a bellyache. Like, can you trust yourself? Can you bring your inner child and your adult together? So I think I'm just saying this because I think a lot of people have that inside themselves, those two voices going on. And I think it's crucial. We need to start trusting ourselves.
Yeah. And I think if we've, grown up with a lot of trauma or, have had people telling us, if we've not done our work around our throat chakra and that what we have to say is important, there's
and we all have.
Absolutely.
It's in our Christic lineage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that whole shadow aspect of ourselves. We are worthy. It's a lot of different, aspects and pieces that, this whole thing. But yeah, like you said, it's just like from infancy, we're looking outside of ourselves, we get sick. Oh, we got to go to the doctor, so it's,
so just a little cure here. Okay. So just, you are worthy. You are enough. You are important. What you have to say is so vitally important. What you feel is so real and so important. And if Kiki keeps barking, I'm going to kill her. and what you intuit is so important. These other invisible entities that are your friends, your guides, or other aspects of yourself are very real, and you can build a relationship and you can begin to trust them. And most importantly, trust yourself. You can begin to trust yourself. In the past, we have been, we have been on a Fibonacci spiral, and we've been set up all the time, and it's usually always ended very badly for us, which is why we feel like we're going to be victims. But we have to relearn that the whole game has changed now. We're on the Kristalla spiral. The cards are stacked in our favor now. So we have to kind of get over that waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think many people know what I mean, because I'm like, is this really going to happen? And it's like, it's starting to happen, good things are really happening now, which hasn't been our story, in these dark eons, and it might not even be, we might not be aware of it in our past lives, but as we start to heal ourselves, we remember this trauma, and we remember, God, we've been burnt, we've been hung, we've been persecuted, we've been bullied, we've been sought out. So we have to heal that, and we also have to forgive that. That's a big thing. Then you're free to really take the reins, take the pen back, and start writing the life story you want to, out being a victor, not a victim. So,
absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to go to something here that I think's going to happen next. This is the next level, okay? And when I was looking to all the different groups, and I'm not going to name names, but one group would say, no, don't trust her. She's, a lumbar. She's, bad. No, don't trust her. The other group, no, trust her. She's bad. Or now I have a lot of, sometimes even with some of the guests I've had, oh no, he's psyoped, he's co-opted, he's this, and I think, okay, so we've gone as a collective, we've gone through, many of us, the scandemic, and we're like waking up to how dark and dirty and deep the dark side of this planet can be, which is an important phase. We need to look at that. And, but now we're getting to the point where everything is bad, and that's a phase you go through, I think. And so that's important. You have to see the dark side, or otherwise you're just love and light, love and false light, spiritually bypassing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now I think we're moving up to the next level. And the next level is where we're learning to trust ourselves, because people say, don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. I say, what? I want to hear everything, because even the dark side knows a lot of stuff, and I can trust myself enough to discern. And that's where I think people are going to have to start trusting themselves, because then they can go in and really be powerful. Two, we all have this dark stuff in us. If you know the true history of our planet, we've been invaded and raided. And, if you say Anunnaki, the new raiders, the fallen angelics, we've all interbred with that. We all have these fallen genetics. There's no Christic or, community where I say, your le poo-poo non puzza, your poo-poo doesn't stink, everyone has it. So now we have to become the alchemists, and that takes a spiritually mature person who has the ability to just know who they are and stand firm in the truth, but yet alchemize and be able to work with these people, because many of these FAs, these fallen angelics, know the game's up. It really is up to them. The Fibonacci spiral, which gave them their power, that, and stole it from prime creation, is petering out. And anyone that still has a mind that isn't so far gone, like an org, that can't think and is doomed to fall, is starting to want to get onto this new, where the juice is, where the energy is. And so we have to be the strong ones to say, okay, but this is how you have to be. And we have to meet them, but yet lead them. It's that dance of being the role models. And that's all you can ever do, is be a role model.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you want to comment on that?
I do. I feel, just to hold space for others and be that spark of remembrance. Did I lose you? Oh, I bet you went to go get Kiki.
Okay. Sorry, that was Kiki. She's got such a personality of her own. She wants to be part of everything. So
I got you. You see my door shut
She has a
too.
lot
I've
to
got all
say.
my dogs out there. You might hear them as well.
She just wants to, she thinks everyone can understand her bark, but and I don't have time to translate her message and your message. So have her on
My
the show
dogs just want to be
sometime.
right next to me all the time, so they're like, I feel them on the other side of the door. Everybody's
I
waiting
know.
there for
But
me.
that's one of your sitters too. So, I want to bring that up because, definitely, well, I guess in 3D terms, you'd say animal communicator, but you're much more. But I think that's important, because we're going to start coming together as soon as we can learn to trust ourselves. We don't have to be like, oh no, I don't want to be with them because they're, and they're, and I do that. I find myself doing that all the time, but I'm getting out of that more as I really come together in unity consciousness and plug into that higher part of us that's all one. And then we can share. Then you have a chance to find out your siddhas, your abilities. So I want to talk about what you do, because I've heard you talk and I just love it, by creating this sacred space for people and animals, the healing, the way you communicate on many different levels, telepathically and because I think that's the new paradigm of coming together, where you don't have to and let me just say one thing. I think we're afraid now because people will look at different leaders and say, "Oh no, I don't know if I trust them. I don't know if I trust them." Well, that's because you don't trust yourself. You can go on a cruise with someone that you might not believe every single thing they say. You can go listen to a video where you don't agree 100% with everyone because you're powerful, and it doesn't mean you give up your will to that spiritual teacher, leader, or whatever. And when we know we're free, we can go anywhere, and we can come together in our uniqueness. So tell me a little bit about how you create that without being, this is my show and this is what you do on my property. How you just facilitate a sacred space for people to do their own inner work and healing.
Well, I mean, I think so much of that comes with just having an open heart, and this land is so healing. So people just stepping foot on this land, they're becoming entrained with the frequencies that's been cultivated here. I had a woman that stayed this weekend. She does energy work, and she was looking for an opportunity to recharge her light. And she said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for everything that you've done here. I can feel the energies and I feel so held." And that's what it's all about, is just creating a container, this place of love. And it's so beautiful because all the love and energy that I put into the animals to heal them, I've brought in a lot of animals that have lived the epitome of duality, animals that have come from slaughter places and on their way to terrible, terrible things. So now it's like, oh, wow, like it's just so beautiful to witness. They're holding that space for others now with, animal assisted therapy it's a big thing, but it's like, they're just being. I'm just being me. I'm being fully expressed, and I'm holding space for others to do the same.
And doesn't that feel good?
It's amazing. It really is. It really is, because I see how I'm empowering people, come here and remember, like, this is who you are. Anything that you're seeing in me, that's also in you.
Remember.
Yeah.
So that's right there. She said it. That's a new paradigm. And coming from the background, okay, my parents are psychotherapists, and they had practices for years. And my husband was a physician, and I worked with him as a nurse, and I worked, as a counselor. And that's heavy stuff. When you feel like, someone's in front of you, first of all, they're a gift to you. Because in fact, my spiritual teacher, the one I told you about, the Vulcan, when he said to Peter, he said, if you're in the healing arts, find out why you're there and then get out. Because you're there to hear yourself. I mean,
Right.
all of you guys who are and a lot of people are just awakening. Oh, I'm a healer. Oh, I'm a spiritual coach. I'm an ascension guide. Oh, come, I'm going to, and you're just healing yourself, because we're all one. And if you get paid for it, okay, fine. But it can be really heavy, and if you're really good, of course, you're going to extinguish yourself, and you're going to find a way to be there. Because of course we're all, and Dave Emery just popped on too. So we'll bring him on in the second part. But what we need to do is find a way to share our unique gifts and talents with others. But there's not someone at the head of the table. There's not someone, and with my old spiritual teacher, we'd walk in and everyone would fall silent, or the gurus, you'd bow to them, kiss their feet, they're above you. That's heavy. Those robes are heavy that these priests wear, these lamas wear. That's a heavy duty. And like I said, pay respects to them, because they were perhaps the only voice in a very dark, dark time. But now, we get to play. I think we get to come together. And that's what Kiki is to me. I call her my spiritual teacher. She teaches me to love everyone unconditionally and to play with life, because we're here to have fun and to just radiate our uniqueness, who we are. And then that in itself is healing, because you've infused the beautiful sacred land that you're the guardian of, the animals that you love around you. And you do like cacao ceremonies or other, things that just intuitively come through you share with others, and you enjoy it yourself. It's not like, okay, let me fix you, it's like, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Right. Well, that's always my intention, is just to be that clear conduit of love. And so it's not anything that's coming from me. It's just flowing through me.
Yeah. And then we all have our unique gifts and talents. So that's really the trick now, is once you begin to trust yourself, you also trust your guidance, because you came here to do something and it's your passion. It's the things you used to love to do as a little child without ever thinking, will this make money for me? You know, whether you're like to play in the mud and build roads, you know, and sing, I mean, create art, make up stories. I was always making up stories with candles and stuff, so I know I was a storyteller. But I think that's going to be so exciting as we get to come together, expressions of who we are without these heavy titles of, doctor, lawyer, healer. I'm just me, and you're you, and you have something unique that I can't wait to have in my life, your signature energy, and I give it back to you, and then we're the more for the sharing of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We all hold a piece. We all have our own key codes. And, when we come together, it's like, oh, sometimes we have a certain, a gift, to unlock, but it all comes back to, these aspects of ourselves within,
And I want to just go one thing, because it's the last chapter in my book, and I think it's crucial, because I feel called, and I talked about the beginning. Many of us are getting called to create these communities. I mean, it might just be a house somewhere. It might just be, a little lot of land. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but we are creating the frequencies in these spaces, and just holding that frequency. And really, it's moving into the higher dimensions. You're dovetailing into the higher dimensions that are here, cleaning it up and guarding it, and creating that sacred space for people to come in, and magical things happen in those spaces. I want to create like my Infinite Human University, where you come to learn about you in those spaces, because that's half the battle right there, is just getting you into these higher dimensions where things kind of just magically unfold. You just let them, you just are a conduit. And I think that's the attitude we need to have. I always say, and again, my first spiritual teacher said, I just work here. So you just work there, you just show up. It doesn't have to be real complicated. So I noticed that Dave Emery's here, and he's going to be with us on the second part of our show. But I just want to bring him in for a minute to introduce him, if that's okay with you, Dave. Here we go.
It's fine. Yeah. Nice
David. David Emery. I'm calling you David now. Welcome. David, do you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself? I asked Amma too, so can you do your own introduction about yourself? I love the way you do it. It's beautiful.
Oh, crikey. Well, hello, Amasol. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
That's right. You guys haven't met.
No.
Yes. Okay. He's on Facebook now, so you guys can be friends.
All right. Well, it's always nice to be friends, isn't it? About me, oh crikey, what's to say? I'm really a frequency holder. You just said it, Elizabeth. That we're here to hold the line in terms of frequency. And I mean, I've done a lot of things like we all have in the 3D world. But the really important thing is that I simply hold the frequency that I have accreted over, I guess, many lifetimes. And so that's what I'm doing here. I hold frequency, and I suspect that that helps us to allow the grids of the earth and the whole universe to expand. So I'm just doing my thing as I express myself. It's not a great esoteric experience, but it nevertheless has its place, and it is my own unique contribution, and that's what we all have. Everybody has their own unique contribution, and that is wonderful to behold in whatever way it may be.
Wow, What a wonderful foot into our next discussion. So we're almost running out of time here, but next week, if you're tuned in, we're going to take up exactly where David just put us, into a much broader energetic manifestation of moving into this new paradigm and really moving away, really basically looking outside of yourself, looking for answers outside of yourself, hanging on the next word of the spiritual teachers, preachers, whatever, doctors, is a 3D construct. And we're midwifing ourselves into the higher dimensions, whether you call it 5D Earth or even beyond. So this is kind of transitioning us into that more expansive mentality. Thank you, David. Okay, so we'll all be here next week. And again, thank you for joining us. And we'll be talking to David next week a little bit more about these things. And Ama Soul will be with us too. And if you have any questions, everything's on my website, www.infinitehuman.com. And I'll see you next week. Ciao in the now.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. We hope today's episode has inspired you to join the new consciousness renaissance and be the change by reclaiming your true divine infinite nature within and becoming an infinite human and a co-creator of the new infinite earth. Tune in next week for another empowering episode. Until then, have an infinite week.
All right, good job. We are clear. All right,
Matt, how's David's mic? Is it okay?
he sounds good. I can hear him clearly. The volume's just a little low, so I'll get him to, we'll go into the settings and we'll turn up the volume there. So David, down at the bottom of the window, do you see where it says settings?
Settings, yeah.
All right, and then, just click there. And then on the left side of that window, click audio.
Okay.
All right, and in the audio settings, so down towards the bottom, there might be a box that's selected that says automatically adjust microphone volume. If it is, go ahead and deselect that.
And that's already selected.
Okay, so so make sure that's deselected, and when you deselect it, a little volume slider will pop up. See that?
Oh yeah, you want me to move it down?
Okay. Yeah, where would you say it's at right now? What's there should be like a little number.
It's exactly halfway.
Exactly halfway. All right, go ahead and raise it up maybe to maybe like 60%, and then give me a count back from 5.
Okay, how about that? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's sounding better. Go ahead and just count backwards from 5 for me one time.
Hello, my name's David Emery, and I'm very delighted to be here on Elizabeth's talk show.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good volume there. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to jump out then. Elizabeth, you have a great rest of your day.
Man, I love the way you edit. You're such a great engineer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Okay, so we're on our own now, and we're still live streaming. So we got some live stream folks that are listening, and I'm just gonna bring us in, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so here we go. Hello, my divine, infinite human being, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome. This is the second session in a 3-part series, and we're talking about spiritual teachers and shifting the paradigm. We're shifting the paradigm away from looking externally, outside of ourselves for answers, for healing, for the power, for whatever in the 3D paradigm, and tuning it more inward to ourselves, to divine infinite source within within ourselves, and learning and playing and experimenting with that. And last week, Amma shared some of her. We have Amma Soul with us this week again, and the great David Emery too. And dear Amma shared with us how she did that in her daily life and how she began to, slowly reposition herself. So she actually even healed herself from something, a major physical accident that all the doctors said, oh, you need this done. And I tell you, that's the proof is in the pudding when you can actually see the results in your physical body. And then David Emery set the tone for us realizing that, basically we're energetic frequencies, and we're holding frequency here with our Mother Earth. And that's perhaps one of the main things that we can truly offer others, along with being a role model. I think is just the way the frequency that we emanate and the way that we uniquely go about our day-to-day life and existence. So here we are. And with that said, who David, let me pick on you since we had Amma all last week. I just think you're such a good role model of that, of teaching in this new paradigm. Just listening to your stories, he's on Facebook now, and I'm so excited about, and we'll talk about later, the cruise that we're going to go on, and he's going to be sharing with us, his understanding of history. But he always comes from the place, and I know Amma Soul comes from that place. And I always say, first of all, I always say never, take only what resonates. All right. And it's always respecting other people. But of course, we all have our own unique visions and perspectives. And I think that's the new paradigm for learning, us all sharing our perspectives. And we're all grown-ups here. So the people that are listening can take from each of us what inspires them, what excites them, what opens up their remembrance, their memories of who they are, of their true infinite nature and their higher selves. So, David, I love the way you share just in the written and spoken word, because I think as we both shared our stories as teachers, we both taught we've taught the worst possible ages, puberty. The last thing they want to do is learn. But you shared some of how your students taught you how to teach. Would you like to expand on that? The shifting the paradigms of teaching away from I'm the authority, I know everything kind of thing.
Well, yeah, no, you're so right. In my experience, I tumbled into teaching pretty much by accident. I really wanted to be the world's greatest tennis player, and obviously you will know by now that I failed at that. But I really made a big effort, and when that dream obviously had to subside, somebody said to me, somebody in the family said, you're good with kids, Dave. You're always taking them out to play football and things. Why don't you become a teacher? So I thought, well, I've got to do something. So why don't I just become a teacher? I mean, how hard can it be? And so I eventually trained, and I got into a school, which is a lovely school, but quite difficult. And you must bear in mind that, in fact, I was teaching 15 and 16-year-olds. I really wasn't that much older than they were. And in fact, I realized that I didn't know enough to help them along on their journey in life. And in fact, I was being taught. So through most of my experience as a teacher, whether that was on a tennis court or in a classroom, I was taught by my students. I was taught about life, and they taught me some very, very fabulous lessons, in fact, which slowly over a period of time, I actually imported into my own living and my own lifestyle. But it took a while. But I'm always forever grateful to the children, to those young people who helped me to expand my own awareness of self so that I could expand it into my own living qualities each day. And that may sound rather grand, but I'm sure that many teachers who might possibly be listening to me would agree with me that often it's the students who teach the teachers to become the teachers. And I know that there was a lot of lessons that I learned, certainly from those children who didn't want to be in school, those children who didn't want to listen to what I had to say, because what I had to say didn't fit with them. It didn't excite or expand their own horizons. And this is really, really important. You have to get involved with young people, with anyone really, at their level. At where they are in terms of their perceptual horizons. And through that, both people can expand completely in an exponential way. I know that one boy I taught who had no interest in listening to anything that I said, and he taught me the lesson. His name was Johnson. I won't forget him ever. He would only stare out of the window. And even when I would come and speak to him in my sarcastic tone and saying, okay, then Johnson, what are we learning today? And he would say something like, nothing, sir, I'm listening to you. And so as a result of all of this, I thought that this young man was a complete dead loss. No, he's not going to make anything in life. He won't become successful. He won't become happy. He won't become joyous, all these things, etc. And yet 2 years later, Johnson rolls up in a very expensive car. And he winds the window down and says, hello, sir. Nice to see you, sir. And I looked at him in astonishment and said, Johnson, have you stolen this car? And he said, no, sir. This is my car. And it transpired that, you see, Johnson had this dream, the dream of being who he wanted to be, of being himself. And being himself involved running his own business. It didn't involve becoming, having a degree in anything or even passing any exams. It didn't involve anything like that. He wanted to have his own business, to shape his own world, to expand his own horizons, and to find out all about himself. And how did he manage to do that? I don't know whatever happened to him afterwards. But certainly 2 years after he left me, he showed me that he had been, in a 3D sense, he'd been tremendously successful, and he was happy because he had succeeded at what he wanted to do. And what he had done is he'd bought a load of cheesecloth shirts. This is in 1974. He'd bought a load of thousands of cheesecloth shirts, very, very cheap, with a friend of his, and they'd gone to Germany to sell them in the World Cup. And he sold every single one of these thousands of cheesecloth shirts, came back to England, bought himself a sports car, and then rolled up beside me in Southampton precinct and said, hello, sir. And when I said to him, how did you do this? He put his hand in his heart and he said, well, sir, I followed my own dream. I followed what I wanted to do. No disrespect, sir, but you was telling me something that I didn't want to do. And now I'm doing what I want to do. I'm making my own way in life. And I remember that was a signal lesson to me that, you can try and impose upon people from outside the things that they need to do, the things that they have to do, the things that society tell them are absolutely important if you want to have a good life. And Johnson told me, he was only, 18 at the time, but he told me that, in fact, maybe, Dave, you've got this the wrong way around. Perhaps you should look in a different direction and accept people for who they are, what they are, and that every single person has a unique gift given by God and expressed and explained in only the way that they can. And so basically, when you say about teachers and students, I learned an awful lot from my students. They taught me, and I'm forever grateful.
Well said. What a beautiful story. Amazing. Amazing. And, Alma, do you want to make a comment?
Oh no, I'm just like, I'm so enthralled. I have a master's degree in education, and so I really resonate with what you just shared. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to comment real briefly because I think that goes back to the new paradigm. We're shifting the new paradigm. The new paradigm is, first of all, create a high frequency space, in Mother Earth, a place where people can just by being in that space, magical things occur and where they can connect with the mother. And then, allowing, especially with the young people, just allow what are your passions? What are you interested in here? Give them this, give them that, give them. I'll just say one thing. Has anyone ever seen the movie Billy Jack?
I haven't
No.
seen it.
Oh, it was such a great movie. It was like one of those 1970s movies. And Billy Jack, I think we need some backbeat here. I'm going to put this in. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
There's
Okay.
an echo.
Oh, wow, that's loud. Anyway, Billy Jack was a Indian on a reservation and half breed, and then his girlfriend. And this is a real couple in real life. I think they're twin souls too, and they just passed on, but they were amazing. And Billy Jack knew karate. He did one of the first karate films ever, and it was amazing. And his wife / girlfriend in the movie had a school called the Freedom School. And all they did was they gave these kids, and these were kids who were hooked on drugs and, who were like losers and felons and all this, brought them to this Indian reservation and said, one rule, no drugs. And the second rule is you got to get turned on by something. Anything, just be turned on by something. And I mean, this is like the 60s, 70s, in the Indian reservation. So they're all doing tie-dye and God's eyes and beads and Indian ceremonies and learning how to lasso horses and whatever they wanted to do, they would try to make it happen. They give them the paint, they give them the clay, they give them the space. And I just love that movie. That movie just, One Tin Soldier was like the theme song with the movie. So, and of course the community didn't like that. And it was the 60s and blah, blah, blah. So that was another story. But, wow, I think the time's coming when we can do that for people, give them the supportive environment and say, who are you? What turns you on? What floats your boat? What do you want to do? And you're doing that, Alma, in your place already, right?
There's a question that I pose to people, what would you do if you didn't feel like you had to trade your time for money? What's your passion? What lights you up? And because so much we just like, well, I'm a dental assistant, or I'm this, or I'm that, like whatever profession you are. But it's just like, what lights you up? What gets you excited? What's your passion? And that's beaten out of us at a young age, in school. I mean, I saw it, I witnessed it firsthand. It's like, don't think outside the box. Don't think for yourself, sit here and regurgitate these facts and take this test and take this next test. And so, yeah, it's and programming.
Yeah.
I resonate totally with what you've just said there, Amma. We are not encouraged to think outside the box. And I mean, what you've just said there is so absolutely pivotal, I think, to how we must express who we really are in other ways, rather than what we have had imposed upon us. I mean, when you consider, this is one of my little pet talks I sometimes feel I must give, when you consider where else in the universe, well, we assume where else in the universe do you have to pay to live? Right. I mean, when we're born, our mothers don't expect, payment within the first week. We're not asked to pay for anything, but curiously enough, our world demands that we live in accordance with payments of all sorts. And what this does, this encourages us to do, Amma, exactly what you have just been pointing out. It steps us away from our destiny. It steps us away from our pathway of joy and from being who we truly are. We forget our identity, and then we become, as you so absolutely accurately said, we become a dentist or a teacher, or I work in the government, etc. Of course, that's not who we are. And this is one of the wonderful, really amazing things about our times now. People are realizing that they're not anything like that. They are something else. and they're beginning to express it. That's what's so wonderful about the times we're going through now.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say when I was a teacher, I didn't even know where the box was. I've never been very good. Because I'm so dyslexic. I always just feel things, I never could do it. I never could pass any of those tests or anything. But I was a teacher in a little tiny speck of a town in Texas called Jarrow. I think it blew away with the last tornado. And, I just said, okay, this is what all these people want, because they'd come in and say, why don't you teach our children some of that there English, Miss Steer? And I'd be like, oh, well, how can they learn English when nobody speaks it around here? So I just would do a lesson plan for them. And then I close the door, and then we talk about the ancient Romans and the mythology and the this and that and Shakespeare and everything I could get my hands on, Anne Frank, and just journaling and everything, because I just am so creative, And then of course they at the end of the year they said, Miss Dare, you're a really good teacher, but don't come back. So okay. And I went to Italy. I graduated. I did my job, and I went to Italy and started my own school, my own film school. So nobody could tell me not to do it. But, I always got in trouble from that. But I think that's where we're moving towards right now. And I think, with the Crystallis spiral of life, everything is moving on to this prime creation. The energy's there, the game's there, and everything. When I think eventually we'll either get it or just, crumble away. But I think in these new earth communities, back to these, when you're creating that, you're pulling people out of the economy, because the economy's is parasitic. It's a drain. It's a drain on your creativity. You're right. Working 9 to 5, just paying, Americans, you have a mortgage on your home, you have a car payment to make, you have to put food on the table and, blah, blah, blah. And there's no room for creativity, or who am I don't know. I'm just trying to get to the next day through the next paycheck. And when we can extract ourselves completely from that and create something where we're sustaining ourselves, where we're abundant, because Mother Earth, we've reestablished that connection. And then we can, the tribe raises the children, everyone can share, generationally. If you look at the remember our future, the indigenous people, all the people of the village would share and mentor and nurture and feed the younger generations, and the entertainment, instead of going to Hollywood and looking at their satanic subliminal messages, we can get back to starting these events and having plays and creating our own multimedia film, all that kind of stuff, grounded in Mother Nature, and communities create their identity through their art, through their promotion.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that as the new paradigm. What say you? Paul?
Well, I totally agree with you, Elizabeth, in what you said there. And of course, you're a free spirit. You've always been outside the box. People like me have been inside the box for so many decades. That's how I was brought up, rules and regulations. Oh my goodness, I'm so pleased I stepped out of the box so I can be like you, Elizabeth. But can I ask?
I got in trouble that way because people were like, I can't do the box.
No, I know. But you've survived. You're a survivor as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But Anna, may I have the temerity to ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Now you have a master's degree in education, and obviously you were a teacher.
I was the director of a federal grant program in the school system.
Okay, so forgive me if this is me being too invasive here, but how did you go from there, which is essentially a rules and regulation institution? How did you go from there to being the expanded consciousness that you are now? What was the significant step that you made, or that you were forced to take, to be able to step away from that?
Yeah. Well, to be quite honest, I pissed off the wrong person. And this is a town of nepotism. And so when she wanted me to break grant guidelines and basically commit fraud, I refused. And then they began to stalk my emails to try to find something to pin on me. And my former husband at the time was an author and illustrator. And when one of the schools wanted to buy a set of Captain Underpants books, I merely suggested, well, maybe you'd like to take a look at this. This is a book specifically geared toward reluctant readers. It's a graphic novel that's engaging and has all these facts, and kids, we're using them in the after school program. The kids love it. Well, they said that was promoting myself, and they fired me. And so I took that as an opportunity, because I was just beginning to get back into, science of mind, law of attraction, being aware of the power of our thoughts. That was kind of like my segue into it. And then, as I shared last week, I fell and broke my wrist, and I healed it in a week. And that put me on a whole new trajectory. So I'm so grateful that I irritated the wrong person and they kicked me out.
Oh my word. What a great story.
Yeah, I'm a librarian in the school system.
Oh, I think that's a super story. And I'm so grateful to that person for pissing you off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
No,
I want to take this opportunity just to say to those who are listening, because a lot of you may be able to identify with this. And I really think, especially now in this shifting times, and it's very uncertain. The economy is very uncertain. There's a lot of fear going around and all this, but you just have to start trusting the process, and know that I always have believed, if you're fired, that means you've done your job perfectly. You got an A+ in that job, and you're getting an upgrade. And you have to trust that, because a lot of you are getting, either fired or just disconnecting from the old 3D paradigms of family, of positions, of, monetary institutions, and stay open, stay awake, stay faithful, faith in yourself and your connection with infinite source, that when the door shuts, a window opens, that the infinite source will open a window, and something much better is on the horizon. And just start, stay out of fear to the best of your ability, and be aware of those. And it might seem insignificant, like something really small, like you might ask to volunteer or go to a party or meet this person, and you might not even feel like it, but show up. We were talking about earlier, you just have to show up nowadays, and you're being used, by infinite source. You'll find yourself with massive upgrades. Anyone, I think, who's listening and who just says yes to these alternatives, the new street, easy street, the Cristallo spiral is opening up, and your life is going to get really good, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And I have lots of friends here in Sicily, and they're, very traditional. I love Sicily because it is traditional. They're really into food, growing stuff. If you look out here, it's all just, everything's growing. But they're also very simple. And they're like, the other day when my friend said, Elizabeth, you don't work, I'm like, I don't work. I work so much, but I work in the higher dimensional levels first, creating it. And then, it trickles down and manifests, but most of the work's done in the higher dimensions. And I tried to, I'm not holding back now. I used to kind of hide my wealth and my abundance and my feeling. And in Sicily, you do that. You hide, you don't flaunt, yourself, because that's their old fashioned, don't let people know. And they're very wealthy. They own their own homes. They own a lot, but they're and so I decided just to be myself and be very, I'm on vacation. I'm always on vacation. They think of me, the American who's always on vacation. And they're like, how do you do that? I said, well, I've been trying to role model how you live on the 5D timelines, because the 5D timelines are like magic carpets when you start to work in the higher dimensions, and manifestation becomes very, very easy. And we're all having that. I'm saying, I don't feel sorry for you. You can do it too, which is what you say, Alma, to your visitors, your friends, or whatever. And I think we need to role model it, but say, hey, I'm nothing special. You can do it too. It's easy. And this is what it feels like. So people go, wow, that looks cooler than what I'm doing, you know? And we need to be the new icons. You know how they say, don't stop making stupid people famous, you know? I mean, I'm ready to be famous in the sense of, hey, it's fun to live on, you know, in the higher dimensions. So anyway, thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
So, Amma, I mean, in your Blue Heart Sanctuary, do you find that there's more and more people coming to you and asking for guidance and for expanding their consciousness, and that there is a genuine movement which has expanded and increased, you know, exponentially?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of people recognize, you know, coming through this scamdemic that, you know, there's a lot of fuckery that's been going on, and, you know, they're kind of, you know, the veil has been cleared for them to see the shenanigans, especially when it comes to the medical model and education and different things like that. So yeah, people are seeking, you know, that they have the awareness, like, you know, maybe this is not the answer. Maybe going to get another prescription or and going to this doctor or that doctor is like, that's not what, you know, that's not what this is all about, you know? And, you know, for people who do have anxiety and depression and different things like that, they're on all these medications, and they're recognizing, I'm just continuing to up my dose, and I'm still have this angst within. And so it's like, oh, here, you know, an invitation. Here are some tools and techniques that might serve you, you know, here, come here, experience this. I had one woman who was on such a high dose of Xanax. She came and I took her out into the woods and did my guided meditation and the forest bathing, and then, you know, brought her back. And I have a copper tensor ring table. And when I came in to check on her, she had tears. And I was just like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And she said, thank you for showing me that I'm able to feel this way without medication.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a real validation of what you're doing, isn't it? It points straight at the heart of the expansion that you're talking about. Oh my gosh, that is wonderful. I know that. Can I add something to that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, yes. We're going to take 1 minute break, and
Okay.
we'll be right back. And we're going to David Emery is going to expand on that, and then we're going to talk more about how Amma Soul, you know, is sharing how she's shifting these new paradigms. We'll be back in just a minute. And we're back. Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show. I'm here with Amma Soul and David Emery, and David Emery was just about to share with us a beautiful pearl of wisdom.
Well, Amma, talking about how you help people to appreciate and understand and actually come to connect with the energies that really run through them and through the whole of our universe, and how that actually expands their abilities to be themselves. I think that's wonderful. And I know that way back in the 80s, when I was a tennis pro, I was a teaching pro by then, and I was always looking for an edge. I was always looking for an opportunity to be able to help my younger players to become as wonderful as they wanted, you know, to fulfill a dream. And I remember I came across something which is called, now it's very common, it's called kinesiology, muscle testing. And everybody knows about it now, but back in the early 80s, it was not so well known. And I came across it through a book called Life Energy by Dr. John Diamond, who was a psychiatric doctor at the Bethesda, New York hospital. So he was a very big wheel. And in fact, I actually ended up talking to him. I invited him over to the UK to give a series of lectures. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make, actually, is how the muscle testing showed me a doorway into who we are and how our body responds. You know, that the body doesn't lie. It has all the secrets of your own feelings and your emotions locked away in its cells. It's a cellular recording device in many ways, but it never tells you that. You have to ask it. And that was the amazing thing for me. Same as you've just explained about your wonderful experiences. That really showed me that there is a way in which we can find out what is locked away inside our muscles because they can be allowed to express themselves and to express the truths. And so I used that in my tennis training. For example, this is a crude example, but one girl who's a very, very good player could never beat one particular player. And I proved that to her. I said, you just don't like playing her. And I showed her a picture of her after I did the muscle testing. She tested strong, and then I showed her the picture of this player, and she tested weak. And this kept going on. And I said, okay, so now we need to reset this inside you, because you have a wrong view. You have an alternative view about this player, which is affecting your performance. And of course, I wasn't really talking about tennis performance. I'm talking about the performance in life, about how we express ourselves in everything if you have something that's holding you back. And so we worked on a number of different strategies to help her to overcome this weakness so that she would test strong, even when she saw this particular picture. And this applies to so many different things all the way through. That for me was an aha moment, a gestalt moment whereby I realized that, you know what? Inside us, we have all our answers. Inside us, we have all these details and these cellular records about what has happened to us. And there is a way for us to be able to expiate these, to be able to overcome them, and to become who we truly are. So your experience there, Amma, you've just triggered a memory in me from 40 years ago. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. And, I think that, made me realize that, first of all, once we bring it from the external world internally, okay, always go to the source. I always say infinite source within. And that's what I've started doing. And just to role model it, I'll say, okay, I need to heal my foot. I have a, Dr. DARPA did a number on my foot, or whatever I need. I need to heal this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And I ask first infinite source, and I always ask Peter for some help too, and then because I set the intention first to source, I create my own reality. I am my holographic template. I'm just projecting out. So then I will draw to myself. It doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go up into the mountain and meditate or, do energy on myself. But I open myself up to bring in, I may go to a doctor. I may go to, a lawyer, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. That doesn't mean you're not going to pull those. You're going to pull the right ones in, and then you're going to take from them what you need, and as long as you are the one in charge, okay? If someone says, do this, and we David, we were talking about this before, on the other show. And I brought up the muscle testing too, because part of learning to trust yourself, sometimes I'll, pull my finger like, should I buy this? And then, and I listened to you say that before. It brought up to mind on Jesse's show. So yeah, it's very important to learn, should I eat this? Should I wear this? Should I go here? And you might want to just muscle test yourself as you begin, or even use the crystal pendulums or tools. But don't be afraid to use 3D or the external world, but you're in the driver's seat. Always. You're the ones that's determining moment to moment, because that might shift. One day you might want to eat this, and the other day that might make you sick, So constantly tuning in. What is my body needing? What is my emotions needing? What is my little child needing? What meditations, what activations, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be with today? You're the one with the reins, the driver's seat. So,
so Amma, do you teach people to in any specific breathing techniques, or do you use color and sound techniques or anything like that to advance your teachings, etc.?
Yeah, so like I shared, there are energy vortexes on this land. I think there's 23. I know there's 23 portals on this land. So I'll take them to some of these energetic hotspots and then just sit and be in nature, sit next to a stream. Oh, let's just, become aware of our body. Let's scan ourselves. Oh, you have any places, that feel tight? You have any tension? move your body, listen to your body. Let's breathe in all that high frequency energy. Let's breathe in the love. Let's flow it through our body. You find any places of tightness or tension, breathe into that. Listen to your body, move your body in any way that it's asking. And I think especially for those of us who've had a lot of trauma, it's like, oh, we don't want to feel, I don't want to feel the pain.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel this in my body, whatever this is. So, here, I'm going to get this pill, or I'm going to, self-medicate, or lose myself in some doom scrolling or watching TV or whatever it is to distract us from being fully present within ourselves.
Yeah, and do you use? I'm getting the impression here from you, and forgive me again, because I've only just met you, but I'm getting the impression here that that you're obviously a very loving personality, a very loving soul. But do you use tough love? I get the impression that you are strong in your expression of love for people, and there's soft love and there's omni love.
Yeah.
But because I say that because quite often when I used to train performance players, the soft love didn't work. The tough love, asking them to step up to the plate of who they are and believe in themselves, this sort of thing. And like you just said, to breathe in all of your own energies, to unlock all that is within you. And quite often I found that, for me anyway, I had to demonstrate a certain amount of tough love to be able to help them to reassert their own self.
Yeah. I mean, the container that's been held, that I'm holding here, it's like sometimes I can just sit and be silent.
Wow.
And then to allow them to feel their feelings, and then you can begin to see, this armor starts to fall away. And oftentimes people will cry, because they've been holding on. I don't know why I'm telling you this, or I don't know, And I'm like, it's okay. This happens quite often.
David, the reason I
express.
The reason I invited Alma here on the show now is because I feel like she's really, I just get the sense, and also remote viewing her a lot, not just through the videos, but on your property, and just being with you and the animals. The animals told me. I just feel like she's really an embodiment of the future, where we're all going. And because I think the greatest teachers in the future are the true greatest teachers are the ones that you don't even know that you're being taught. I mean, she and it seems so effortless. In fact, it's like Kiki, I was explaining before, Kiki's my very ascended spiritual teacher, even though she's a brat. She's from the higher dimensions, and she teaches me to love everyone unconditionally and to play with life. And I think that's where we're going, where you don't even know you were taught. Almost like playing with a little child, you've learned, or like your student, and she just creates the space. And maybe, I went to Option Institute, which I paid a lot of money to go to. And this was a very heady guy who used to be in marketing. He wrote the MIDI books, but they made a movie about him because he took his firstborn son out of total autism. And it's called Sunrise because he came back. In fact, Ron now runs the Institute, I think. But I went there and he did Socratic dialogues where you just ask questions. That's all you did was ask questions. Well, why do you feel that way? Well, why? Non-judgmentally. Not completely non-judgmentally. So I think providing the high frequency space, being a role model, and even serving with a few questions once in a while, or creating an experience like, let's make, that's how I work, hero's journey. How are you this archetype? What's your shadow of self archetype? What's your mentor self archetype? And letting people get out of the way so they can come to their own conclusions. Because I think we've been far too in hands-on with I'm the teacher and you're the student.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I really
Mm-hmm.
I like the way your energy, the way you move with people, and you too, David. You are so wow. Just very diplomatic. I've really learned a lot with you because I still can have that. No, that's not right. And you have such a graceful way of always handling people, finding the most beautiful aspects in people and very, I think everyone walks away, whether they interview you or on an interview with you, walk away feeling so much like they've had a sacred encounter and feeling much better about themselves. I think that's most important. When you're with someone that makes you feel good about yourself, that is precious.
Well, the first thing I ever thought about you when I first spoke to you, Elizabeth, was that you are an illumination. You are a firework. That you just illuminate everyone and everything around, and it really is a cascade of absolute wonderful energy. So I thank you for energizing me in so many different ways. I really appreciate that. And with regard to Amma, if I can just say also, Amma, I appreciate what you said about just being there to help people. Just the actual fact of just being there quietly is a very powerful tool. I really respect that. So yeah, you're both fireworks in many ways.
Well, also, Amma can relate to this. We haven't always been. For me, I know you had your husband, walked out, and then I lost, my twin soul, and I'm just starting to come back. It only took me 19 years, so you're seeing me, and I was really happy. I was always most of my life, and then when I lost Peter, it was like, I didn't want to live for 19 years, and I did reach my lowest of low. Really, really bad. And I'm just starting to realize I didn't lose him. It's all good. I understand it all, when you don't understand it. But I'm saying this for everyone out there listening, the best thing you can do is just heal yourself and know that we're all going through it. And if you meet someone like Amma or me who are on the other side of it, or David who's on the other side of it, then hopefully just that's an inspiration for you. And then the best thing you can do is just do it, because then you're a sparkle and you end up, like you said, illuminating everyone around you with that love, infusing the grids, infusing the people around you, being a role model, being a teacher, just by being the authentic you, a healed you, a whole you, a holy you.
May I?
Mother, may I?
Yes, please. So I have just a little story to share. So as I shared last week about healing my wrist, that was minor. I was in a car accident in 2019 and my leg was broken, and it was my tibia. It was a weight-bearing bone, and the orthopedic surgeon told me I needed surgery and screws. And immediately I got the guidance, no, do not let them put foreign objects in your body. Trust that you can heal. And I remember coming home, and my dad was a deacon in a church, and he was very much in the medical model, and he was the tough love, and I said, well, I'm feeling into what to do. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Get real here. This is a broken bone. You might think you can do some things, but don't be stupid, basically. And I remember right then, a Joe Dispenza video came into my field, and I'd never heard of him before, but I watched this little short video and I heard his story, how he was in a bicycle accident and his back was broken. And he laid in the hospital bed for 8 weeks. And in his mind, he constructed the perfect spine. And every day he felt how great it would feel to get back to his regular activities. And I was like, oh, well, we're in this collective field of conscious awareness. I know that Joe Dispenza has healed his broken back. I can heal a broken leg. And so that was the first time I really fully surrendered and just was able to be. And I'm reaching out to all my friends who have a beamer mat and a spooky 2 and all these different energy devices, and nobody would help me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'd help anybody. And in a meditation, the guardians came to me and they said, stop searching outside yourself. You are the frequency. Put your hand on your leg and tone and speak in tongues. And I did. And in 2 weeks, I healed my leg. And the beautiful demonstration for me, I had this little mental piece that I was working through, because I'd start to walk on it, and then that tiny little mustard seed of doubt would come in. I'd be like, oh, but what if it's not strong enough yet? And so I was like, I just need to go get a repeat x-ray. So I go to the orthopedic surgeon and I asked for an x-ray. And when he came in, he was indignant, where have you been? You didn't show up for the surgery. And I said, well, I've been healing. And he threw the x-ray down on the table and he said, well, I guess so. It's perfect. How did you do it? I said, it wasn't me. I just got out of the way and I trusted my body's innate and divine blueprint to heal itself. And he said, you sound just like my mother. And I was like, oh, is that right? And he said, yes, she's an energy healer. And I said, oh, well, then this has been divinely orchestrated for you as well. I wish I would have recorded it because his face it's like forever. It's just like the validation of it all. I was just like, yes.
What a great story, Amma. That is just so,
and I love to share that story with others because I get a lot of people that come here like, oh, I wish I would have heard that story before I got all this metal in my wrist or this plate here in my shoulder because I'm having all these problems. And, it's like, oh, maybe next time you'll pause before you just listen to what the surgeon, they want to get you in there and cut you open and give you the pills and do the procedures, but trust your body. We all have this ability.
Amma, thank you. That is such a brilliant story and so well explained. You're quite right. You said a couple of things there. You said, get out of your own way. We often just stand in our own way. So amazing. I've done it to myself so many times. Dave, get out of your own way. And the other one is, surrender to your higher energies, the self that is within you. It's so difficult to do all of those things because we're entrained since we're very young to believe that we can't achieve anything without help from outside. We must trust the experts, the authorities, the people who know. They even know about your body. So turn your body over to them and let them heal it. And of course, what your story has just shown is just pivotal. It's wonderful because we all have it within us. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, the beautiful thing was I ran into some of my friends, afterwards, and they were like, we were guided not to help you. I'm like, that's because I needed to do it all myself so that I would know. Yeah.
Wow.
So, thank you for listening to your guidance and not coming to my rescue.
Yeah, because people actually are inclined to do that, aren't they? Oh, I can save you.
Right.
I can help you make yourself better. You need me. And in fact, it's very, very seductive that, I know that when I was a child and if I remember this one, I was 3 years of age and I lived with my grandmother and 5 other children. I won't tell you the story. It's a long one. But basically every Friday evening, we would all have a bath. And the father would have the bath first, and then the next eldest would have the bath. It eventually got down to me, and I was 3 years old, and I had the bath last in the same water. And then I was picked up by my grandmother and told to stand by the stove. Now the stove had 6 or 7 bars, and they were all red hot because, of course, it was on. And I remember I stood too close to it, and I got 3 burn marks on my butt. And I remember my grandmother immediately said, "Oh, right. Well, we're going to put butter on that because that butter will save you from having a nasty burn mark." And everybody operated to tell me exactly what I needed to do to save my bottom. And I remember that graphically, that I had no input in it at all. And from that moment on, every time I scraped my knee, etc., I would go to my grandmother who would heal me. And everything thereafter, the doctor would heal me, then so-and-so would heal me. You mustn't do this and you mustn't do that. So your story is a pivotal one, showing that it is all within us. We are our own masters and mistresses of all the things that we need. So yeah, absolutely. We're entrained to believe that somebody else will do it for us because we can't.
And just to kind of wrap all that up, last week's and this week's, I think I always say the proof is in the pudding, that saying, but it's easy to be spiritual, meditate and about a lot of things, but when it gets to your body, that's like where you really are proving that you can, shift the physical, and you showed that, you proved that to yourself and to others, to a medical professional. Oh my God, it's like going to, the religion, the medical religion, the brotherhood. But I think also these last 4 years of the scandemic for many of us was that test, because here we were told, oh, deadly virus, you must get this injection, you must trust the who who who, the World Medical Organization, satanic organization, and they know more. And it was really, I already knew, I was primed from day one. I knew it was happening, but I still had to go through, there was like a fear, like, wait a minute, what if there really is a deadly virus and I'm not gonna, and I had to really align myself totally and trust completely my inner guidance and go out there. I never wore a mask. I was in the hospital next to people that had COVID, coffee and everything, but I knew they had lactose and, they had acidic, lactose acidosis, and that's why they couldn't breathe, but I knew there was nothing contagious. And it was kind of like, getting back to the movie, Close Encounters, when they said there's this leak. If anyone saw that movie, don't go to Devil's Mountain, where the UFOs were landing, because there's this deadly gas, and they take off their mask. They go, breathe. It's like, who are you going to trust?
Yeah.
You, Infinite Source, or everybody, all the newscasters, all the doctors, Fauci and the presidents and the world, here in Italy, and and we all did that. Everyone that took that test, I think it was a baptism to really show we're in the driver's seat. We can shift that paradigm. So. Okay, well, we're running out of time. So thank you, Amma, so much. Thank you for your stories and your wisdom and your role, being a role model, and for the animals, working with the animals. I love that. And we'll say goodbye to you. And Dave Emery's gonna come back next week, so he'll be staying with us here on the live stream, and we'll be listening to him next week. And we're going to be talking, I think, a little bit more about some of the spiritual aspects of this, so that we learn to come together to share information as co-creators in the spiritual paradigms, and not rely so much on external speakers or teachers or things like that. So we'll be discussing that next week. So stay on, David. Don't jump off, okay?
All
Until
right.
last time you jump. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll say goodbye to Alma. All right. And we'll talk to you later. And can you just tell us again how people can get in touch with you, Alma Soul, if they want to know more about your work, your websites and all that?
Absolutely. My animal sanctuary is Blue Heart Sanctuary, blueheartsanctuary.org. And the Center for Living here is Soul Gaia, is soulgaia.org. And I'm on Facebook, Amma Soul. And then I also have a Facebook page for Blue Heart Sanctuary, where I share a lot of really fun, uplifting videos with the animals. It's a little love streams, I call them, with all the beautiful animal friends here. So if you're looking for a little lightness to your day, then join my Blue Heart Sanctuary page and watch some fun, uplifting videos. Feel the love. Lots of love here.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful Alma Soul. Beautiful soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll talk to you. We'll see you next week with David Emery. Ciao.
Have fun.
Okay. Bye. Okay, David, you stay here.
Okay.
Do you need a break or something, or 5-minute break?
I'm just going to open the window and have a glass of water.
Okay, me too. I'll be right back. I'm just going to take a potty break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Yay! I'm so excited to have you here. So, okay, we'll just get in here. Hello, my divine, infinite human beings, all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the third part in our three-part series about spiritual teachers and shifting the paradigm. So we've been talking about the first week with Amasol and last week with Amasol and David Emery about shifting the paradigm towards looking outside of yourself for guidance, for healing, for information, and bringing it back into you and going to divine infinite source within, and then learning. Well, Amasol even shared with how she healed herself, going against what the medical community talked about. So it's really about taking back our power, and we are able to do that now. And the more we can begin to trust ourselves, listen to our own inner guidance, and really learn moment to moment what we need to be doing, being, thinking, feeling, kind of taking an internal check. That is the how we begin to shift this paradigm. So I have the learned David Emery here. I'm so excited to have him here. He's so hot. He's getting hard to get a hold of. So I wanted to just, take this sacred moment with him to welcome him back. Hi, David. Welcome back. Glad to have you here. And David's looking to me going, now, what does she want me to talk about? Okay, so we'll just kind of let the conversation flow. But what I have been so impressed with by you, and well, okay, let me go back. In the first session I talked about my journey with spiritual teachers, and I talked about my own spiritual teachers who were amazing, and then how I kind of was growing beyond one of my spiritual teachers, and then I got involved with speaker one, we'll just call her, and so much of what she said just resonated because it actually caused me to have memories of my own. And, I couldn't get enough of her information. I was actually told that for like, I've talked to this, I call him my dark mentor, and he would teach me the freedom teachings. I had no idea. I didn't even know they existed, but he would tell me this like every night for about 4 hours. We talk on the phone for about a year and would give me the background. Meanwhile, I signed up for the second part, which is this Asiana's KDL3. But I don't know if you know, but she would say something, here's this transmission, and she'd teach me something, which I had no idea what she was talking about. It just, I didn't know what colonic, I didn't know what a colonic was. I didn't know what part of K part, I didn't know any of that. So, and I just turn it on, and then she'd say, and next week we'll do another activation, and then it'd be a year. And I was getting so frustrated. I was so upset because I knew I had to know this information. And I was doing like my heart shield, and I was starting to accrue more genetics, and I was starting to question and wake up. And I did not know there were freedom teachings. I kept calling and talking to the office saying, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. No, that's all. So then I got my Facebook, like you, I got on Facebook again because I had and I found all this information, decided only to friend people that had like Cathara grids or, had symbols of the Christic sciences. And I found just naively that there was a lot of division. There was like those who said, this I call it the Monty Python, followers of the sandals, followers of the gourd, pre-shield split, post-shield split, Ashiana versus Asia. I mean, all this duality. And I was like, what? What? I was like, that makes no sense. So I was like, and meanwhile, I'd gone to Lisa Renee because she talked about Andromeda. I thought, Andromeda, that's where Peter's. What is that? What, and I was trying to piece it all together. So a lot of her history I followed, but I started moving beyond her. And so I just was like, I need more, and I couldn't get it. And I've been very grateful to everyone who's shared, who I feel like there's some people who are like the flame holders of truth, and they're holding on to, the whether it's this group or that group, it doesn't matter, but they're holding on to the purity of the essence to the best of their ability. And I pay respects. I always pay respects to all my teachers, speakers who've gone before me. I always do that. Even though we're shifting paradigms, I think you always have to pay respects to those who went before you, otherwise it'll hold you back. But with that said, I kind of see you. I was still happy to see you. Especially with Sasha.
That's
I was so happy
relief.
to have Sasha Stone, because I talked to Sasha Stone about the Crystallo Spiral, and I could tell he was getting it. In fact, the first time I met him, I mentioned Ashiana Dean, and he said, "Oh yes, I want to talk to her." I'm like, "Well, I don't think so," but he had you, and I really feel what I love about you is that you found a way to, in your own unique perspective, and you always say it's your perspective, but you found a way to embody the teachings and kind of bring the two together, so it's not just internal creation, external creation, the duality. You've risen above this duality. And I even heard a comment where someone said, well, maybe he'll repair the shield split. I don't want to lay that on you, but I do feel like you're the embodiment of finding the unity and oneness in these teachings, and embodying it, because I think we need to move beyond just waiting for the next activation or transmission. I'm going to put this back. Waiting for the next transmission, and right now there's one that's supposed to be coming, probably be next year, to where we're embodying it and we're getting it ourselves. And I said something kind of blasphemous. Let me just say this last thing in the earlier ones to Amma, and Amma agreed with me. A lot of people have been agreeing with me. Ashiana said in her earlier videos that I'm now finding, I can find them. She said, actually you are the guardians. And I will say we are the guardians. And the speaker is not speaking now, probably, I believe, because the architecture's been cleared and we're able to access those aspects of ourselves. So we don't need a speaker as much. I mean, believe me, I love to find those videos and activations. So thank you, those people who are holding it. But maybe that's why she's not coming on as much, because we are supposed to be in the embodiment of it. What say you?
Well, I think all the things you've said there, Elizabeth, are very pertinent, and I agree with them. Certainly with regard to what is happening now, there are more and more people, I call them commentators or presenters, and they can present and commentate in lots of different ways. And I know that you've had some on your programs here, and they're wonderful, because they present their own perceptions, their own angle of vision of the true teachings. Now, when I say the true teachings, I'm talking about the original teachings, the original Christic teachings of how the cosmos works. And how the cosmos works is how we work, because everything is one. And so there are a lot of commentators and presenters representing this information that you've been talking about here, Elizabeth. And it is wonderful to behold. Everyone has their own, as I've said, angle of vision. I have mine. Mine tends to be an inclusive one, where we're all in this together, because I truly feel that we are together as one in this. And why do I say that? And why am I here now doing this? Because if you'd contacted me 25 years ago or 30 years ago, I would have said, what are you talking about? I was too busy in my 3D world, like many people. I was too busy with my mission, my personal mission, to be this, that, and the other thing, and to follow the rules and the regulations. So if you'd said anything to me about original teachings and expanding your consciousness, I really wouldn't have got it. I wouldn't have got the message. But now, of course, it's different. I remember I was looking around for something in 2006 or 7. My life, sort of like pretty much in a 3D sense, had fallen apart, and as it does for many people. And I was looking around for something, and I was on the internet, and I came across two things. I've always remembered this. One, the first thing is, and I signed up for it, that was a Californian company said, activate your DNA. I didn't know what DNA was, not really. I mean, have you noticed that everybody talks about DNA and frequency now? 25 years ago, they didn't say those things. All right. Now they are. Now it's a fundamental aspect of our conversations. But back then I looked at this and I thought, DNA activation, that sounds important. I'm not sure what it means. So I signed up for it and I did one session on the telephone with a guy in California to activate my DNA. I had zero idea what I was doing. But I stopped. Something told me, just stop, Dave, stop. So I didn't do it anymore. And within 20 minutes of stopping, I was checking through the online again, and I came across a symbol code. And to me, it was a totally beautiful symbol code. It was the Akasha Godseed code. And I didn't know what that meant, but it was so beautiful. It rang a bell. It struck a chord. It set alight something inside me. So I tracked this down, this symbol code, and that's how I got to Ashiana Dean's Voyages 2 and so on, all of that. And that's how I happened to embark upon my own personal crusade, which is to know what's going on. I want to know who I am. And if you'd asked me 30 years ago, I said, I know who I am. My name's David Emery. You know, I'll prove it. Here's my passport. You know, here's my bank card. This is who I am. But you know what I'm talking about. I realized then that I needed to know more about who I really was, that I was more than my simple name. And so that took me on a journey, a voyage, if you like we're all on, like you're on, Elizabeth, so wonderfully, and with such illuminated power. And Amazon, so many people that you interview, we are all on the same journey together as one. We're walking the same pathway, and many of us are hand in hand because we've known each other before. So what is this astonishing journey? Well, this astonishing journey is the journey of remembering who we are, and that's all it is. So who are we? Well, if I'd said this 30 years ago to anybody in my family, I would have been encouraged to go and visit the local psychiatric hospital. Because you see, really, we are aspects of God's source, so much so that we are God's source. We are all that is, and all that is us. And we are downstepped into this 3D world to express and experience so many different things. And yet we are all one. We are all part of the cosmic balance of life, the divinity of the celestial existence, which is who we are. And when we realize that, for example, Alma, in one of her talks, you know, it made me realize that when she healed herself, she healed her broken leg. Now, you know, that's an example of the astonishing powers of we ourselves as we truly are, the original God source self, because we are capable of all things. And so that's the journey that we're on, Elizabeth. And it seems to me that there are so many commentators and presenters. We have had our speakers of the past going through tens of thousands of years. There have been many of them telling us about these cosmic divine instructions and reasons for existence. And yet now the expansion of consciousness has been so enormous. It's been so exponential, as you know, that we are, all of us now, asked to step up to the plate and present what we have learned in our own selves about this wonderful, divine, cosmic story of which we have been a part for so long.
I love this guy. I just love you so much. I love talking to you. It's just, God, I feel like I'm talking to myself. When I was a child, I thought as a child and I spoke as a child. And I think we've been in that children of God paradigm of looking and needing speakers. Thank God we've had speakers throughout the ages, and I'm so grateful for them. But I feel like the new paradigm, which this is kind of like the creme de la creme of the whole series right now, the whole new paradigm is just as you said, it's us all coming together as puzzle pieces. Because first of all, I don't know what it is about the Christic sciences. You can call them colonic science, Christic science. There's so many different names, but it just I even if I go away from it, I come back to it because it just strikes a chord within me, and memories. It sparks my memories, and it's like, oh yes, and I know it does that for certain people, not everybody. Some people are like, oh, it's a cult, leave me alone, get out of here, and I'm like, okay, you're not my. But it's like the tribes coming back online, and creating, Melchizedek cloisters and communities and all kinds of things and holding the frequency. And we just know who we are because it's just like there. It keeps coming back. And I always go back to it. So I feel like the next paradigm is for us, to take our positions as the Christos, avatars that we are, and to come together in these kind of forums like you're sharing. And there's a lot of people I've asked to share, and I think some of them are, and rightfully so, because we have such a history of trauma, in our alternate identities. Every time we've held on, we've had these sacred documents, we've had to hide them. Every time someone found out where we were, that was it. That's all she wrote. We were murdered. We were raped for our genetics. Our documents were stolen. Every time we spoke out that we were, burned or boiled or, beaten or, so terrible things have happened. And I think this is the healing of that trauma and overcoming the fear, so we can give. And Mama and I talked about this a lot, opening up our throat chakra and and we all have had trouble. I know you shared, we've had trouble opening that up and speaking openly of this, but I'm so glad you came out of the spiritual closet and are talking about these things. I feel like, oh gosh, because these were things we could only talk about in huddled, around the fires and hope nobody heard us or saw us, But I think it's time for us to come out and everyone to share their perspectives, because this is so rich. It's our heritage, it's our culture, it's our birthright, and we need to share it because everyone has the right to know this. And we are awakening many who are like us, very many powerful ones who just have not had it's a catalyst that a time capsule of wealth of information that sparks remembrance when we start to share these stories, this information. So thank you for coming out and sharing it.
Well, in fact, I'm going to give you a big promotion here about your book, which is a truly remarkable book. It's an empowering and compelling read, and I mean, obviously, you've written it from the point of view of your own development as a person and your life story, and that in itself is, of course,
Peter.
And Peter, and yes, of course, and Peter. But really, what struck me about that is the memories that you have accumulated and are now beginning to record for us and tell us about the things that happened to you in previous lifetimes. Now, this is something that I can tell you that even when I was much younger, I was in my teens, I would talk to people because I was fascinated about past lives and reincarnation. Don't ask me why I was. We can speculate now because I knew things, but I wasn't aware of them. And so I would talk to people about them. And sometimes people would say, oh, yeah, I remember so-and-so. I remember graphically, and forgive me for just sidetracking here a little bit. I was 8 years old and I was in my primary school, and I was with Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell was probably about 50 years of age at that time, and he'd been a former soldier. And I attribute to him the wonderful gift of giving me confidence to be able to write. He was the person who gave me confidence to write. And he was telling us a story. He always used to tell stories. And he said that he was in Austria, climbing the mountains in Austria. And he'd never been there before. And he was climbing up. And they took a rest at a very high spot before they turned a corner and climbed to the top of the mountain. And he said to his guides there, he said, I know what's around the corner. I've been here before. And the guide said, you told me you'd never climbed here before. I've never been here before in this life, he said, but I know what's around the corner. And he described it in detail. And the guides looked at each other in astonishment. They got up, walked around the corner, there was exactly what he had described. And they asked him how he knew. And he said, I don't know. And then he told us, I must have been here in a previous lifetime. Now, I was only 8, so I was impressionable. And I've always remembered that. And so when you write in your book, Elizabeth, about these life experiences that you've had in the past, into the deep past, it immediately connects an energy within me, because I know that what you're talking is the truth. It is a fact. These things have happened. I am now remembering things from my previous lifetimes, which I never did before. And now more and more people are. A lot of people are remembering them, but don't want to remember, so they shut them down. But this is one of the features of how our consciousness is expanding collectively, because more and more people are open to all of these things. You remember I said that, 25 years ago, people weren't talking about frequency and DNA, and now it's in everybody's conversation sometime during the day. So what we are doing now is we're opening our chakras, our energy centers, to be able to absorb the energy that spins through the whole of the cosmos, and it never ends. It is always there. And so the experiences that we have had that are locked inside our own selves, even now in this body, are beginning to whisper the things that have happened to us. The thing that was so wonderful about your book is because it was such a compellingly personal read. And all of those experiences are very, very powerful for other people to read, and because it helps them to recall the things that they have locked away within them. And when we do that, what happens? We realize that we are more than this 3D body self. We realize that, oh my goodness, there is a whole universe of me out there and still existing. And through that, we can decipher that the fact that we are one with everything, and we have been here forever. I really love that book.
Thank you so much. And yes, I'm so glad you noticed that, because that's exactly what it was. I just kind of took it down. I'm like, well, this is really personal, but it was like, yes, you have to put this in. And I've had a lot of people comment. I have a lot of men read it, so it's nice to hear it, because a lot of women, like my age, and they said they cried for the first couple chapters, because what it does, it takes you on a journey of to heal your trauma, because when you start to remember your past lives, it's a sign that you're healing. Just like, I talked about the movie Alfred Hitchcock, Spellbound. I don't know if you ever saw that. Gregory Peck had an accident, and because it was very traumatic for him, he had this phobia, and it wasn't until he remembered what had happened that he healed himself. So as you remember what happens, it heals. It washes away all that trauma. So I have bared my soul about what terrible things that I remembered, and it has been a catalyst to help other people, but you have to feel it to heal it. And that's the whole purpose. And then the last thing I say is, this is my never ending story. Now go write your own. And I think we're all writing new stories. First of all, we're rewriting our story out of victimhood. And I think we need to go to, into novels that go a little bit further than I was born, I died, because we need to express the multidimensional, give permission slips to people to remember and express and be the multidimensional beings that we are. And how interesting will those movies be?
Oh, wow. They'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually, for many years, I've wanted to make films. Curiously enough, I've never really told anybody that, except apart from you and one or two other people, and I don't even know where that comes from. But yes, the power of telling the story of a soul being through lots of connected lifetimes, which is still ongoing now, because time is simultaneous; it's not linear. So everything is, oh my goodness. I mean, this whole particular theme is just something so dramatic. For example, your power is in the now, Elizabeth, as you know. And through what we are experiencing now, how we expand our frequencies now, we cause the shift, the cascading energy forward and backwards into the future and into the past. And we can change the frequencies of the experiences we had back then. Just what you've been saying. It's the first step towards healing through feeling. What a great phrase you gave there. And so what we do now, how we expand our consciousness now, can change the frequencies of our experiences in the past and in the future, so that you bring all of your own selves, all of them, together as one in true gnosis, true understanding, true inner standing of who you are as a divine and celestial being. Oh, wow. I just find that would be a theme for a movie that even Hollywood couldn't get close to.
Well, okay, so you just opened it up because, well, first of all, you're a storyteller. So that's what film is. It's storytelling, and you just get to use a lot of material. You know, you get to use music, costumes, you know, makeup, backdrops, you know, dialogue. I mean, I love it. It's my passion. And, you know, my book, I spent a lot of time in Hollywood and all that. And I think I sent you a letter on this, but I'll share it here. But you know, Jay Widener was on our show, and we had the whole thing of the magic of Hollywood, you know, that it casts a spell on you. It is the most powerful medium that exists. And talk about shifting paradigms. I mean, it completely brainwashes you. It's been used, it's been inverted to program our minds. And I have a whole chapter in my book on Hooray for Hollywood and how it's been used. It's cast a spell on you, you know, and now you're mine, you know, and Jay and I both, in that episode talked about our experiences in Hollywood. You know, I talked about how I went there with all my ideas as a budding actress. You know, I was like, you know, the star in my high school films, and I had my first job was in an acting company, and I loved to write, and I was on my way to Hollywood, and the first thing I get handed is a porno script, of course, porno script. And then he talked, and that's just normal. And then, and then he talks about this beautiful young woman that he met when he was there. Same thing. Well, she ended up going. I stopped there. I don't, not even close. You know, minister's daughter. You know, already like. And so, but she went a little bit further. She was a beautiful woman. So you know, you sleep with everybody. You know, you make a porno, you sleep with everyone. But then he said that she saw him and said, "I'm leaving Hollywood." And he said, "Why? You're doing so well. You know, everyone wants you in their film." She said, "I went to a Hollywood party and they said, you got to go down to the basement or whatever." She went down there and there was an infant, you know, and they were doing the sacrifice. So it is such a dirty place, such a dirty place, unfortunately. And it had to be because we're in an inverted world. But I really believe now with the Crystallo spiral, you know, that is all just destructing. And I feel like our time to really use our creativity, our talents, our abilities to create, you know, stories, films, you know, is coming. And I think that's the new paradigm. That is going to push over the new consciousness renaissance, because that people love to see movies, and we have nothing but crap right now. I'm watching all the oldies from the 1930s and 40s right now because I can't watch the modern stuff. It's too satanic. So it's a huge need, and I am just waiting for it to happen. So you know what? Let's take a short break, and I want to talk about the cruise when we get back because I'm so excited about that. So I'll be right back. And we're back. And I'm here with David Emery, and we're having such a very high-minded metaphysical conversation. If you get lost, you can connect the dots in my book, The Infinite Human. But we're here also because not only is he a brilliant person, and I just a man of my own heart. I feel so connected with him. He's a very learned man, and I'm thrilled because he's going to be on a cruise with Sasha Stone, where he's going to be teaching, the hidden history of our planet. And go ahead and tell me about that, and then I'll go even further. I'm hitting back a few. David, do you want to tell us about the cruise? Tell us the details.
Well, honestly, I don't know too many of the details, except we're going to some fabulous places. We're going to Piraeus in Greece, of course, first. That's where the cruise ship will be docked. And I believe we're going to the Oracle of Delphi. And then we're going to, after looking at a number of different places in Greece, we're going to Alexandria, which of course was built originally by Alexander the Great, and housed the great library there and all sorts of things. That'll be amazing. And then we're going to Cyprus as well, and I happen to know that there's a couple of portals there in Cyprus because in a past life I've used one of them. Yeah, that's another story. But
is that the one at the Aphrodite's beach, the birthplace of Venus? Is that a
I believe
portal?
it is, yes. Yeah, and you know that one, don't you?
Amazing. I've been there. It is amazing. Oh my God.
And
Cool.
some places in Turkey as well, which is going to be absolutely wonderful. So we're going to spend 10 days visiting these places and absorbing the frequencies of those places, because all of the rocks, especially the limestone and the crystal based rocks, hold frequencies. They hold energy. So they hold memories, because they are aspects of source too. It's frozen light, if you like, but frozen crystalline light. And so certainly somebody like Elizabeth, for example, who's an empath, can be able to put her hand on those rocks and feel the energies, and maybe even see the images that pass through there. I'm not an empath, so I shall be with Elizabeth and watching her very closely as she does that. So we're going to be doing all of that, and I believe I've been asked to just talk about the history of our cosmos. Well, that can't be difficult. I mean, it'll be a breeze, won't it? Because I'm only going to cover 950 billion years. So I mean, how hard can that be? So that's what I should be doing.
Well, that's good. God, that's just a dream come true. When I heard that, I was like, I gotta be on that ship. I am so thrilled. And you're the man to do it, because you just are so, well schooled in that. You've done the research, and you're working on a book, Beyond Biblical, so which has all this. So you certainly know the stuff. You certainly will have some interesting stories to tell us.
But I think also, if I can just say, Elizabeth, that the people who will be going on there, they all have their own stories, and they all have their own puzzle pieces, like you mentioned so accurately earlier. And all of these puzzle pieces can be shared, and I hope that everybody does share them, because in that way we can expand this wonderful picture of the whole of the cosmological story, because we've all been parts of it. We are part of this cosmological tale, and we played a pivotal and unique part, every single one of us. We are all aspects of that astonishing cosmic tale. And everything that we have done and created and manifested has been a unique part of it. We are all right there as authors of this particular tale.
And I'm not sure how this is going to unfold, but I know it's massive, because I'm getting it, and I think you're getting it too. But I've just, I had a film school for many years and ended up closing it before COVID. And I really tried to create stuff from the soul with my students, and, have it be kind of a co-creative project, rather than the old model of Hollywood where it's tyrannically the director and, my way or the highway. And I just feel like, I'm going to bring my cameras and stuff along, and you wrote me, and, I'd like to just get these different captured people's, yours, mine, and anyone else who wants to share their impressions of it, and kind of put it together in kind of a collage montage. I feel like we're moving. Hollywood did that a little bit now with some of its films that it's doing, where it's just, you follow many different people's lives. I think even Love Actually, the British Christmas movie, was, where but I don't know if I'll be able to do it to that level. Of course, it's all editing, but I'd like to kind of create like a collage of the experience, And I feel like it's also going to be a healing experience. I know for me with Malta, oh my God, I didn't want to talk about that, but it was a very healing experience because I had a lot of memories of the Knights Templar and being and losing the planet from when I touched those stones, the goddess temples with the crystal spirals, and having it be ripped from our hands, when we kept Mother Earth in perfect balance, in perfect harmony with the Crystalla spiral of life, and then just being totally dethroned from our positions as the guardians. And so I did a lot of healing with that. So I hope I did my healing, because I was in bed for I would be up running around doing the work, and then I'd be like in bed for like a week, and then up around and bed for the week. So if I have the energy, I don't know how I'm going to react to all these frequencies. Do you have those ascension symptoms?
Yeah,
Ever?
I've had some ascension symptoms. I didn't know at the time that they were ascension symptoms. I had them sort of 2010, 11, and 12 pretty heavily. And even when in public places, walking through London, I suddenly pretty nearly collapsed, and all sorts of. Yeah, I've been through those, and those are those are the oscillations and the vibrations of low frequency experiences, which surface when you start to expand your consciousness. So as you expand your consciousness, what happens is it releases low frequency experience energy, and that comes through. I mean, you're more of an expert, of course, than I am, Elizabeth, but I bet you that is what is happening. It releases those, it's sort of, if you like, toxic experiences, and they come through the physical body as sort of like trauma-based experiences. So yes, it's all part of the expansion of our consciousness, and it is always worth it, because when you step into the true realization of who you are, it is an absolutely celestial experience.
Well, I hope I'm going to be up in form. I think I will. I don't think I would have been guided to go. But can you just tell us the details? Because just if anyone's hearing my voice, I mean, this is something that, I'm just going along for the ride, but I think it'll be a great experience because you'll get to meet David. I'll be there. I'd love to meet you guys. And then Sasha Stone and probably some other very fascinating people are going to gravitate toward it. So let's see. It's the 10th. Do you want to give the details, or do you know them, or do you want me to?
I don't know all the details.
I know. Okay. Okay. It's the 10th through the 20th, and it's on the Hoosier Dam. There's a ship, and it's Holland, America. And the travel agent is Destiny Travels out of North Carolina, but I don't have all that information, but I'll try to share it on my Facebook page, Being an Infinite Human. Or if you're interested, just go to my website, www.infinitehuman.com, and send me a message if you're really interested and you can't find out how to do it. I know it's on the Lazarus Initiative. They have that information. Sasha Stone's website, it's going around. I've been sharing the heck out of it. And I'll try to put something to it on my website if I can, maybe in my next newsletter. But just reach out to me or David Emery. He's on Facebook now, David Emery. So, but I think it's going to be fascinating. I mean, it's going to be pricey, but gosh, you got them, you can manifest it.
Yeah. I think, Elizabeth, what's going to happen is that, and this is just my speculation, so I'm not writing this in stone, but I think what's going to happen is that there are no accidents. So this has been organized, and I didn't organize it. I didn't even have the idea. But I think what's happened is that this has been deliberately planned so that we go to these places. So what's significant about these places? Well, because these places are at the heart of a certain period of our history over the last 5,000 years, a very pivotal part of the story of our lifetimes in the West and in the East, because they all came together in this particular area. These areas, that's Greece, Egypt, Turkey, Cyprus, the Levant, all of these areas are particularly critical And the people who are going to go on this have been there before. Yes. I don't mean on a cruise. I don't mean on a holiday. I mean that you have been there before in lifetimes. Now, I know this because I know that I have. I know that Elizabeth has. So the people who go on this are going to be retracing their own steps into the history of their previous lifetimes. And through that comes a whole new raft of learning, a whole new set of volumes of experiences that may have been locked away, but will be returned to you if you come on this trip, if you do, because that's why it's been arranged. Of course, they've asked me to talk about the history, but that's not the reason that this has been arranged. This has been arranged in a more esoteric way, so that you can step into the past, your own personal past, and retrace the steps that you have used in the past, and learn something new about yourself today, which will be able to expand consciousness. And I know that's what's going to happen with me. Absolutely, for sure.
Well, okay, so this is for people that I feel called, and if you feel called, it'll happen, and there's a reason. In fact, I think it's predestined. You signed up for this cruise many lifetimes ago, and I know for me personally, when I've been to most of those places, and they've been the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think it's a healing. It'll be a healing experience, and I think, well, at some level, at least I think for me, I clear out, like you said before, the ascension, clear out the lower frequencies of actually the artificial timelines, history that never was meant to be. And I feel like we'll be clearing that out from our template and from the Earth's template, and reconnecting the true organic timelines. And I usually run Cristalla spirals whenever I go to these, wherever I go. I do them everywhere. I did one at Sasha's compound in Mexico. And, I do them everywhere because it's like, I feel like it's just sewing, weaving, because I'm a weaver at the highest level. Someone called me a spider woman, a Navajo spider woman, because I work with those timelines. So I'm weaving the correct timelines. And dissipating, just kind of sloughing off, the AI, all this artificial time loop that we've been, a MOBA strip that we've been encapsulated and trapped in. So I'm sure it's part of that. And wow, fascinating, lots of going on, and lots of interesting people I'm sure will be drawn. So, it's not like we're promoting it because it's just it meant to be. You'll just end up, on the good ship. Lollipop. So I'm so excited about that. I just, wow. I had, when I first heard about this, I couldn't sleep for like 2 days, and I wrote a letter to Sasha. I don't know if you ever got it, but and I think I sent it to Jane, but I just saw that I'll have to send you the letter. I can't remember what all I wrote, but it was just information. And I think it's just going to happen automatically, that everyone that comes on there will be doing their own internal integration, have their own stories, of integrating all these lifetimes back onto the correct timeline. And, then we'll all be like little puzzle pieces, coming together, and it'll just be this beautiful montage or tapestry. And whether we get it on camera or not, it's going to happen. I'd like to get someone on camera and share here with you guys, on Voice America. This will be in October. So I think that's also setting the tone for the new paradigm, because you just said it. You're just part of it. I'm part of it. We all just show up, and then in the space-time, the right space-time continuum, and it happens. It's not in the 3D. Well, we will have a time, when you have to get on the ship and get off the ship. But does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think it's as somebody used to say regularly, divine right timing. These things happen when you are personally ready. So no, I'm looking forward to it. And the time is right, because like we spoke about a little earlier, there are more and more presenters and commentators and expanded consciousnesses now joining together and walking the same pathway. So this is the moment when all of these things come together as one. I think it's wonderful. Through the courtesy of people such as yourself, Elizabeth.
Well, I tell you, it's so exciting for me because, like I said earlier, I've been depressed for a long time, and just feeling separated and isolated, and missing my twin soul and all that. But it's like I just feel like we're pushing through that veil, really, that veil. In fact, I'm invited on a talk show, The Veil, tomorrow night. And I said I got a lot to talk about. This I usually don't like to talk because I don't like to do the old school spirituality of but it's such an exciting time to be alive. And my mind is so busy all day long because I'm becoming totally multidimensional. I mean, I'll go, no longer is that tree just a tree, but the tree's talking to me, or it's a memory of that lifetime when I was under the tree. Or I mean, everything is so rich with consciousness. And I'm always in my mind. I can barely remember to, get my keys, and I leave my keys in my car, so I don't have to find things like that. But and people, we're actually able to have conversations like this with lots of people. People are paying attention. People are wanting to know more. People are wanting to are curious about more aspects of themselves than just the price of bread and what the stock market's doing. Although that's interesting too. So many things. We're becoming multidimensional. And well, do you want to say something to that? Because I have something else that's kind of
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, what a great statement. The multidimensional aspect of ourselves. This is just such a story in itself. I mean, all through my life, I just assumed that I was me. This is me here. I've got my name, as I've said before, my passport and so on, and that tells me who I am. But in the last couple of decades, I've suddenly realized, actually, I got that completely wrong. Because I've got another self of myself in the next harmonic universe, which is dimensions 4, 5, and 6. So that means I'm a 6-dimensional being, not just a 3-dimensional being. And then I discovered I got another aspect of myself in the harmonic universe 3, which is dimensions 7, 8, and 9. So I've got 9 aspects of myself. Oh my goodness. And it goes on. I've got 10, 11, and 12. So I've got 12 aspects of myself. That took me a while to get my head around, but I found it very uplifting. I found it very expanding because it's not just me. I'm part of my own family, my own soul family matrix, and it extends outwards and upwards and downwards and everywherewards. It's just amazing. So I am not alone. So just as I'm talking with Elizabeth here, we are not alone because she has her whole soul matrix family collective also. And all of that is connected to God Source, which means that Elizabeth and I are connected seamlessly and exponentially in every way. So we all are inextricably. So all of you listening here now, we are all together as one. Now, you see, I realized when that occurred to me that, in fact, the cosmos is all us. We are the universe. And so you're never alone. And that was a big pivotal moment for me when I realized that. I'd gone from just being me here on Earth to being me existing everywhere. And in individual, unique personal selves.
Wow. well said. Said so well. And but also, I went through a long phase where I was like, oh, the 3D Earth, I hate 3D. I want to beam me up, Scotty. I want to get off. I'm so sick of just the physical, But because it had become a prison because we were capped off, and we were bored with just seeing only through our limited vision, very, very small spectrum of light that are human eyes, and I want to address that because I think a lot of that is in the starseed, whatever you call it, the Aquafarian, indigo community, that we want to get off Earth. But wow, what an exciting time because it's all connecting. So the 3D Earth, the physical world is just consciousness. I'm realizing it's all just an emanation of these higher dimensions. And I'm starting to finally go, wow, I know nothing. You know, my motto is the more I know, the more I realize I know nothing. So I'm like going, wow, I thought I knew it all and I was bored. I was bored because I didn't know shit. and, but now it's so exciting because how is this all going to play itself out in the 3D arena? And I don't want to get, we just got a few more minutes here. So I'm looking here, but when you dropped your little, I'll just say the Trump bomb the other day, when you kind of said that about Trump, I was like, oh my God. But you know, there's so many things playing themselves out that in the higher dimensions now through the 3D world, as we recalibrate ourselves to the Kristalla spiral. I basically, being an internal optimist, believe that everything is going to have to contort to get on that timeline, get in alignment with prime creation, infinite source creation, or it's just going to, peter out. So I see that everything is going to have to move in that direction. What say you to that? Even the politics, the economy, everything is going to have to conform to that prime creation Kristalla spiral. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's all to do with energy and frequency. The energy of consciousness, which is emanated through the frequency, and as the frequency expands, and it is doing exponentially at this particular time, then all of the lower frequency energetics, which is the way we have been living, separated, constrained, with low awareness of self, all of these things, living according to what we would call primordial debt and original sin, all of these very low frequency harmonics are going to disappear. It's like, when the sun starts shining, the fog disappears. It's just evaporated. And what's going to happen now is that the expansion of consciousness for all of us is going to evaporate all of the lower frequencies. So they are definitely going to go. And does that mean that all of the things that we've experienced in the past, in my life, etc., have all been bad? No, not at all. We've been through some wonderful times. Humanity has created and achieved many, many wonderful things, many, many things that we wouldn't want to create again. But we are an amalgam of all sorts of creative, energetic power. Because it comes from ultimate source. And so we have created all of these things ourselves. And now what's happening, I believe, is that there is a new paradigm. It's a new frequency. It's an expanded frequency. And all of the older, no longer needed frequencies are going to evaporate. They're just going to vanish. And we are going to be able to we could live on 3D Earth quite happily for thousands of years in expanded health and wonderful experience and tremendous feelings of emotions of love and joy and unity. All of these things are the natural way for living. And that is where we're going to go. We can do this in other dimensions, or we can amalgamate ourselves from other dimensional selves into this one if we wish. We can manifest ourselves any way we want because we have that power. And I believe that when Elizabeth talks about the paradigm changing, I believe that's what is happening, and that we can choose to join the new expanded paradigm or stay here. And I know that Elizabeth and I and many, many others are going to join the new paradigm.
Well, I was also reading, and I believe this very much, that it just resonates with me. And there's a lot of different philosophies among the Christic teachings that I believe our earth is ascending. I mean, it is actually, you called it Thea Earth, the first Earth that was
Thea.
Yeah, Thea Earth. And, the Nomi wave is just bringing it back to its rightful place in the cosmos. And it's actually, I know some people say, no, we have to go to Earth, or no, we have to go to Aurora Earth. No, we have to go to Medium Earth, I believe that's so fragmented. I mean, we're all one, and the Huva bodies are all, we're all 15 dimensional. So why is not our planet 15 dimensional? So all these are coming back together. The fragmented aspects of our mother are coming back together in one. So you don't have to go anywhere. It's all coming here. Thoughts on that?
Well, no, absolutely, you're right. The original, well, this is just me talking here, the original encryption of our whole cosmological experience is permanent and forever. It's eternal. It's irreversible. It's perfect in every way. So the original is returning. So we are actually reacquiring our original encryption. And so all that we are and all that we have been and all that we will be eternally is being returned to us, or we are returning into that original encryption. So that means that, yes, you don't have to go anywhere. You just have to shift the angular rate of particle spin, which is the physical aspect of ourselves. And when you do that, I mean, for example, if I could shift my angular rate of particle spin, I could actually become plasma light, my own plasma light self, which is here. All right. And so my silicon self. We are all here.
I love it when you talk that way to me.
So we are all together in the same space. All right. And when the original encryption of all that we are is reset, which it has been now reset, then we are returning to that original encryption in situ here as we are. All right. You don't have to go anywhere. You already are it.
You know, before I had this talk show and before I found you, I would have these conversations with myself or with all my monadic tribes around me and in the higher dimensions. I would have, it's so nice to hear someone else, you know, because sometimes you do think maybe you are losing it when you're all alone in your villa, you know, and you only speak Sicilian when you go out and buy produce and fresh fish or whatever. So thank you for these words. God, it's just so stimulating and inspiring to talk to you. And I just think this is the new paradigm, shifting away from waiting in front of a computer for the next transmission or live stream or activation. You know, get out there and live and share and talk and touch the stones and travel and go on the cruises and the pilgrimages and come together in these echo communities and share your light and receive it from others. That's how that's our everything's our teacher in the new paradigms. Everything's our spiritual teacher. So okay, we're running out of time. Any closing words? Thank you, David. Thank you so much for coming. I love talking to you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I always get uplifted by your energy because you are a very energetic girl. And you really are very empowering. And you shine a very powerful light, Elizabeth. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, likewise, right back at you. Yeah. And I can't wait to see you on the cruise in person. That'll be so exciting. So exciting. So, do you have a website yet? No, not yet, right?
No, not
Facebook,
yet. No.
Facebook, David Emery. And gosh, just Google the guy. He's got wonderful interviews all over. And he's been on our show before. And he'll be back. We'll have to have you back. Well, for sure, when we're on the cruise, we'll get something with him. But before, we'll have to get you on. So we'll have you back.
Yeah, we could do
All
a
right.
program. We could do a program over, visiting one of those places.
Yes, we definitely will. We're going to do it. It's going to be so interesting, right in front of one of these portals, you know. Oh, that'll be great. Okay, love you guys. Thank you for joining us in, and we'll see you next week. And bye, David.
Bye.
Okay. Oops. Okay, I'm out of here. Bye.